Hello and welcome to episode 135 of the Talk Nintendo podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Casey Gibson, and joining me this fine evening, as always, the corn husker himself, Mr. Perry Burkum.
Okie-dokie-doo.
You got some corn in your teeth there, Perry.
Yeah. Well, Have you ever eaten corn on the cob and gotten corn in your teeth?
I sure have, but I tell you what, I'd prefer it off the cob. But
yeah, you know what? Yeah.
It's
Life
like
hack.
I'm not trying
Take
to
a butter
work
knife,
that much.
cut
Exactly.
that stuff off,
and you can cut like 4 or 5 ears at a time, and then you just have a big old bowl of corn.
And you hey.
Anyway,
you know what? You sound like an Iowan.
Yeah. Maybe I am an Iowan.
I knew it.
You know who's not an Iowan, though? Our next guest, finally making his debut on a full episode, Mr. Jordan Rudek.
Hi, guys. I feel like it's been such a long time coming. I know we've been talking about this forever, having me on an episode. I'm glad to finally be here. This is awesome.
Woo!
Yeah, he took some time out of his very busy schedule of playing RPGs nonstop and doing asinine amount of reviews over on Nintendo World Report. And
yeah.
he's
I'm recording
the mantle.
I think I'm recording 3 podcasts in the span of like 24 hours. It's going to be insane. Because I'm
Yeah.
recording after this one. I've got a podcast with Don, and then we've got Thirsty Mage tomorrow. So I'm gonna be all podcasted out. I think by the end of Wednesday.
Yeah. So if people don't know, Thirsty Mage, Jordan's a staple on the Thirsty Mage, right?
Full-time host, baby.
Right?
We won't say host because I don't want to make David mad.
Co-host.
But he's a
full-time
co-star.
chair member.
I'll say
I couldn't be more regular if I tried. I'm the most regular on that show.
Oh, I wish I was regular, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, it must be all that corn you're eating, Perry.
Yeah.
Probably not helping. Now,
You're not supposed to eat the ear, dang it.
that's where all the protein is, Case. Now, I was going to ask you guys, because you talked about corn last episode, so I had to have corn this week, and I did. Now, does popcorn count? Or is that too different?
I mean, it's...
I'm saying no.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of popcorn.
It counts if you're saying you're eating corn.
Okay.
But, I don't think you can use that as, a vegetable.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think
love
that would be
popcorn,
cheating. Yeah, okay.
I don't like
popcorn.
corn. I don't like popcorn that much.
No?
Come on.
I like it when you go to the theaters and you could just drown it in butter. And I guess you could do that at home.
Yeah.
But they have that nice dispenser, so it's just you don't feel like if I were to take a half a stick of butter, melt it in the microwave, and then pour it on my popcorn at home, I'd probably feel bad about myself.
It's not the
when
same.
It's not the same.
Yeah,
when it's got a nice little dispenser button and you hold it down for 30 seconds, it doesn't feel nearly as atrocious,
I mean, it's part of the movie experience, right? That you're having popcorn, you've got your huge drink that's way too big, and it's going to make you need to go pee in the middle of the movie.
Yep.
It's just part of that whole event.
Yep, costs $15.
You get that
Yes.
that huge Coke
20 Canadian.
that costs you
that's right.
$8, but it's 3 gallons.
Yeah, they're also refillable. At least at the theaters near us, the Cineplex near us, you can always go and get more. Not that you want to refill it, but if you did, you can leave the theater and I'm gonna take some Coke for the road or Pepsi for the road. You can do that too. So, $8 is a lot.
Staring at me, 5 feet away, face to face from my window right now, just staring right at me.
Who is?
I think
it scared the crap out of me. A deer. There's a gigantic deer outside.
I think they're here for the podcast.
Yeah,
I guess.
And they're like, we heard corn?
That's hilarious. Yeah, they all right when you said that they all looked. There's a bunch of them. They just looked at me. Yeah. Anyway, that scared the crap out of me. All right. Beautiful creatures. Yes. So yes, I agree that popcorn is a movie staple. I used to eat popcorn at home all the time, and before I got diagnosed with diabetes, my favorite treat of all time. Well, my favorite somewhat savory treat was buttered popcorn, popcorn and then with a side of glass of cold orange juice.
Oh, orange juice.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say a glass of cold butter. I don't know why.
That would almost probably be better.
Dude, no, I'm not saying
juice
you mix them together. No, I'm saying you eat the popcorn and it's so salty, and then orange juice is so sweet and it's just delicious. Don't knock it till you try it.
Well, I tell you one weird orange juice combo. When you have like a nice, like the Entenmann's chocolate donuts, where it's like the normal inside, but it's got that, like you put it in the fridge and it gets like that nice hard shell almost on the outside. Okay. You pair that with an OJ. And I guess like I wouldn't normally think chocolate and an OJ would go together too well, so.
Well, chocolate orange, baby. What are you talking about?
That's not bad. I don't know. I don't know about that pairing with the juice, but the donuts and putting them in the fridge or freezer to get that chocolate coating, to get it hard like that's a brilliant call. Like I love that, but I never think to do it.
Yeah, and you take that bite and you hear like the a little crisp. I haven't had a donut in too long. That's the real problem right now in my life.
There you go.
Anyway, yes. We're here to talk about some Nintendy and some non-Nintendy, but we're going to get into that later. Jordan's been playing some games because that is what he does. Unlike someone else on the podcast, but we'll get there when we get there.
We'll get to him as well. You know what? I feel like the only games I play these days, aside from my non-Nintendo game I've got to talk about, is I'm playing games for review all the time, right? Or for review or to talk about on a podcast. There's very little, for any console or platform that I'm playing that isn't something I'm purposely going to talk about
maximum
somewhere.
Efficiency. It's like you have to be efficient with your game playing now, because it's like, well, I could be just playing a game, or I could be playing a game to write a review.
Well, exactly.
Or just discussion, yeah.
The only games I feel like I can buy on the eShop, like kind of guilty pleasures, or maybe feel less guilt about, is like really small budget titles. Like Casey talked about, is it Switch and Shoot?
Yep.
Like I picked that up after you talked about it on the podcast last week or the week before, and that's a perfect game I can play for like 30 minutes or an hour, and it's $4 or $5 on the eShop, and I play that, and okay, that's great. Like I'm not reviewing it, but I'm also not needing to spend 20 hours with it. I can just have some fun with it and come back to it whenever I feel like. So that's a great little title, and so I'm trying to find games like that these days where I'm not picking it up to talk about it, because it's such a bite-sized experience. I can just play it for a little bit and feel satisfied about that.
Quick sidebar: have you played Downwell yet?
I played Downwell on Vita actually. Originally, I picked it up on Switch as well. And your comparison between those two games was absolutely perfect. Like they're very, very similar. The run-based idea, the basically one-button kind of play style, really, really satisfying. And also could be really frustrating too. I actually found the controls of Downwell maybe a little bit easier to get used to. Like I'm still the screen wrapping thing in Switch and Shoot, it still trips me up a bunch of times,
Oh, for sure. And like the fact that it's only one button, you would think like, oh, super simple, but yeah, wrapping your head, especially, and all of a sudden then they take the screen wrap away from you, and then you're like,
that's right, yeah.
Then you're sort of tapping A 3 times to sort of trying to stay in like the one spot, like you're hitting A a bunch, and then also that is.
Yeah, I learned to jam the button a little bit when I get stuck, or I want to stay in one place and just keep shooting in a single straight line. I got to jam the button really fast so I don't move that much, right?
Yeah, it is a deceivingly, like I said, you'd think one button, oh, this game can't be that hard, but deceivingly tough.
It would be easier if you could move, right? If you could move your ship around left to right, or up and down in space, it's a really easy game. But the challenge is, can you do all of this with one button? And I've played those kind of 1 or 2 button games, and they don't always nail it. Sometimes the minimalist approach to it doesn't really work out. But I think it works really well with that game. So I'm glad you talked about that on the podcast recently. Maybe I'll jump into the games that I've got in the notes here that I've been playing a little bit more, and I reviewed both of them as well. So the first one is Way of the Passive Fist. And it's a really neat take on the brawler genre, the kind of side-scrolling Capcom or Konami arcade type brawler. The games I kind of likened it to, or I was thinking about in my review, was something like Turtles in Time, the arcade version, or the Super Nintendo port, and the X-Men arcade game. You know, it kind of has that look to it. But the key here is this idea of passive fist, and what it means is you're not actually jamming the attack button and just beating everyone up. So it's not a beat 'em up. Instead, you're blocking attacks, and the blocking is kind of like a rhythm game. I don't know if you guys have seen this game or if you tried it out or anything.
Oh, well, it actually just came out this past week, right?
That's right, yeah.
Because when I was going through the games for the eShop, I did see it, and I did catch my eye. Spoiler, it is not my pick of the week. But I did see it, and I was like, okay, this looks like a cool little beat 'em up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. It's got about, I think it has 10 chapters. They're divided into scenes. Like, it kind of does the kung fu movie thing. There's some fonts and some, like, cinematic style cutscenes, I suppose, or maybe cuts between the different chapters or something like that. Yeah, it's neat because the blocking, and you can do dodging as well, and you can grab projectiles and throw them back at certain opponents that you face. Yeah, it's actually quite fun. Like, you have to remember the patterns, the different enemies that come at you. There's not that many, but they have different color palettes, and that means that this enemy is going to throw different attacks at you. So you have to remember the pattern for each enemy, like, but then each color palette that comes at you as well. And you can have multiple enemies on screen at once. Fortunately, they don't all attack you at once. I think that would kind of break the game against you and make it too unfair. So they kind of take turns attacking you. Maybe they throw 4 or 5 strikes at you. You dodge all 4, and then the next person kind of rotates in, and you do the same thing with them.
It's like a choreographed dance.
It absolutely looks that way too. The way the opponents kind of rotate in and out, like they're kind of do-si-doing around the area, you know, and the next person comes in for a dance, right? It's pretty good reference there. As you block attacks, the stamina meters go for your opponents go down. And if you deplete all of their stamina, then you can kind of just nudge them over. You kind of just give them a little shove, and they fall down and die or get knocked out. So
they've given up the will to live at that point.
That's right. They've used all their energy punching you or trying to grab you, and now they're just done. They're done being a henchman. They're done being a bad guy, and they're just going to retire there. So you just kind of knock them over. Another thing that happens is as you block attacks and knock people over, you build up a combo meter. And as your combo meter goes up, a couple things happen. You increase your score, which gives you medals, and the medals award you experience points. So there is a little bit of an RPG element to it as well. Experience points let you level up, and they increase your health meter, or they unlock one of 3 special attacks. So if you build your combo meter, let's say you get it to 5 strikes or 5 successful parries. Not parry Burkums, just parries with an A.
There are no successful parries.
That's an oxymoron.
let alone 5 of them.
Yeah.
If you parry 5 times, you can do like a super punch, and the punch lets you kind of just attack people normally. Take down their stamina by half or knock people out if they're already weakened. There's a slam attack where you kind of pick a guy up and you choke slam him into the ground, and it hurts everybody on the screen. And then there's a final one. It's another kind of screen clearing. I think it's called Gravity Well or something like that. Another screen clearing attack, but it requires you to build up your combo meter pretty high. So yeah, the game kind of constantly keeps you on your toes. You're not just mindlessly beating up on people like you might in your other final fights or your other kind of
more
brawler type games.
Beat 'em up, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean beat 'em ups. You're meant to just jam the attack button. Try to dodge a little bit, but it's mostly just. You're not really thinking too much about it. So one of the cool things about this game is that you're constantly aware of, okay, what enemy am I facing right now? What's this person's attack pattern? So what button inputs do I need to do? So I need to do like block, dodge, block, dodge, something like that. So you're remembering that.
That sounds like a
the
lot
whole
of fun.
thing. It is, yeah. It looked cool to me. Like I like this idea that I like playing brawlers, but at the end of the day, I reviewed the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle for us, a few months or late last year, and beat 'em ups are really fun. But at the same time, when you get halfway through the game, you've kind of seen it all. You've kind of done the same thing. It gets a little bit repetitive by nature.
Oh yeah.
Right? This one does.
Yeah.
It gets repetitive a little bit towards the end because it doesn't have the enemy variety. So that was my kind of main hang up with Way of the Passive Fist. But just the fact that it takes a genre that you're really used to and kind of turns it on its head, I think it makes it definitely worth a look for anyone who's interested in this type of game. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, and it's funny because like I remember the game that we played in the Beat 'em Up bundle at PAX, me and Casey and Jill and Jules. So 4-player, and it was just absolute pure insanity.
Yeah.
And that's funny that you say that because really, that's just go around, hit buttons. That's it. But the cool thing about the game was like the visuals were just unbelievably, insanely awesome, and tons of different, like ridiculously scary, weird, different enemies on the screen.
And I got to play as a purple ostrich, or a girl on a purple ostrich. I mean,
yes, exactly.
Doesn't get better than that.
No, I remember that game from the collection, and it was pretty. Yeah, that was a pretty wild one. I think that was interestingly. I think that was one that didn't come to North America when it was first released. Maybe it was a Japan only release, or it was really maybe a very rare game or something like that.
It was too insane for America.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but the funny thing is like the one thing I took away, like the gameplay wasn't my thing, but the visuals are just amazing, and and that's what kept you going, But so with this, it sounds like the gameplay is totally my thing. Kind of like, it kind of reminds me of, kind of what it's probably off, but Sakura Samurai. Have you ever played that, Jordan?
I don't know that one. No, I feel like the name sounds familiar, but I don't think I ever played it.
That was an early eShop 3DS game. So it was back when like those were really special, and it was like Nintendo produced. And it's basically like Punch Out, that, but it's like third person, and instead of you're in one spot, you're like going around an area, taking out guys one at a time, and dodging. And and it's every single enemy has a different hit pattern. You have to, and it's like a rhythm type thing too. So I know it's a little different, but it's the same where it's all skill based, and I love like that skill based stuff is my favorite.
I think the punch out element that you mentioned in Sakura Samurai, you said, is that what it's called? Yeah. Yep. I think I can definitely see. I didn't think about it at the time, but I can definitely see part of that in Way of the Passive Fist. In Punch Out, you can't just repeatedly punch, maybe Glass Joe you could, or some of the earlier guys, but when you get to like Bald Bull or Mr. Dream or something like that, like you have to figure out their patterns. You have to know when to dodge, when to duck. Like it is very much a rhythm or timing based thing. And that's I thought that was a really neat addition to a brawler type genre that's been done to death and really needs some kind of hook these days to get you to come in. Like, it has to be visually impressive, or the music has to be good, something like that. I wouldn't say the presentation of this game is all that special, but it's just the gameplay is very much something unique.
The thoughtful brawler.
Yeah, it very much is.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, you definitely put it on my radar.
Cool.
And how much? Do you know how much it is?
I think it's either $14.99 or $19.99. I think it's in that range. Yeah, it could be. There might even be a sale on that right now. I think there was a sale around the launch or just before. So have a look up for that one.
It is $11.99 right now, currently on sale, down from $14.99.
There you go. Yeah. So
and it is
good time to grab it.
Sale until, well, they don't tell you on Nintendo's website. Which is stupid.
I noticed that today.
They do tell you on the Switch, which is weird. Well, I mean, I like that. It's weird that they don't show you here. But anyway, $14.99 regular, $11.99 on sale.
Well, I'm definitely going to keep this on the radar for a sale.
I think for 12 or 10 or 12 bucks, I think it's a really good price for this game. I do recommend it to anyone who's interested in that style of gameplay that maybe is looking for something a little bit different this time.
Cool.
So there's one other game. I won't talk about this one as long because I liked it, but it's a little bit different. Maybe not as unique as Way of the Passive Fist. Now, the second game is called Out There, Omega: The Alliance. And it's omega this symbol? I guess is that
yeah.
the Greek letter for omega or something like that?
I guess, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So out there, Omega the Alliance. This is a space exploration roguelike game. There's no combat to it. It's very much kind of a narrative and a narrative game, or at least it has narrative elements. You're collecting resources, and you're just trying to get through. Get as deep into space as you can. You go from kind of star system to star system, mining planets for resources to basically to let you keep going. You look for oxygen to help you breathe longer, or I think hydrogen is your main fuel source. So you go to a planet, you find hydrogen, you can maybe travel a little bit further. And yeah, that's kind of the main aspect of the game. On some of the planets that you visit, you can find new life, new species that give you technology or have some kind of narrative interaction with. There are kind of dialogue options as well, or kind of choose your own adventure type options too. I found that a lot of those are very, they always have negative, or they often had negative consequences. Like I would, lend this person some fuel, and then they wouldn't give me anything in return, or, go and explore this, space station, and, it's empty. You just wasted your time. Like, oh, well, that's great. So I found that the narrative elements were interesting, but I found that the choices didn't really pay off that well. I don't know if you guys have ever played a game that came out for PC called FTL, Faster Than Light. Is that one you're familiar with?
Oh, I've heard of that for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to think. I don't think I played it, but I've definitely heard of it before.
You've heard that one, yeah. It was a pretty big kind of one of those first or really well-known indie games that everyone was talking about when it came out.
Yeah.
Really popular, really well received critically.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Hyper Light Drifter, like that same, like it was in that same category of popularity.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Definitely not the same type of game, but yeah, just one of those indie darlings that everyone heard about and was talking about when it came out. Sure.
Yes.
The guys who made FTL are the same ones who made Into the Breach, actually, which did come to Switch. So a lot of people were kind of thinking, oh, Into the Breach came to Switch, maybe FTL will.
That's right.
That remains to be seen. I hope we get FTL. I think it's great. Out there, the Alliance is different, though. It doesn't have kind of combat or space dogfighting kind of elements. They're turn-based in FTL, but out there doesn't really have that. It's really focused more on how far can you get during this run, how many things can you discover, how can you manage your resources well to get as far as you can. There are endings in the game. At the beginning of every run, you're kind of taken from a marker on the map, which is kind of your end goal, and it takes you backwards all the way to where your ship is, and it turns out that they're really far apart. So you have to have a really good run, really use your resources well, get lucky, right? Find the right planets that have the things you need to go as far as you can. It is tough to get the endings, but if you keep working at it, yeah, you should eventually have a good run. One cool thing I like about it, or two things I should say, there's a lot of achievements to this game, and I think that a part of roguelikes that's really important for me, at least. I'm not a huge fan of roguelikes, but I like when they give you something for having failed, or you can fail and still feel good about yourself. It's not in this game where you die and you retain any of your technology or anything like that. You don't, but you can you'll unlock a lot of achievements through different runs, and you can also find new ships. And when you find a new ship, it becomes unlocked in your hangar, and you can start every run with one of those ships that you unlocked. So I really liked that element of it.
What differentiates the ships per se?
They'll have different stats, so they might be able to travel to new systems and use less fuel. Or they might have less cargo, so they might have less cargo space, but they can travel, without consuming as much fuel. Or they might start with a lot of new technology, but they don't have a lot of shields to them. So they're really, if you get into not combat situations, but there's if you explore certain planets, it affects your shields. Like if you go somewhere more dangerous, like maybe with a toxic atmosphere, it'll reduce your shield rating. So those ships can't really explore those planets as much. So yeah, the different ships, I don't think they changed the gameplay too much, but they added just enough that you want to explore what they do and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And just finding new ships was cool. Like I found one that it looked like a little firefly, kind of like it had a little kind of tail that was lit up and very small. It had only 2 compartments in it. It couldn't hold very much. So you would kind of just do one quick run with that ship. You wouldn't be exploring very much. You would just see how far you can get on your 1 tank of gas kind of thing. I found one ship that looked suspiciously like Samus Aran's ship from Metroid. I don't know if her ship has a name, but this ship looked, pretty close to that one. So I wonder if that was an interesting nod or reference to Metroid there. Yeah, exactly.
Cease and desist.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, out there's fine. Like I think it's if you're into that kind of space exploration type game with roguelike elements and some story thrown in, I think it's fine. It's not a game I would recommend to everybody, but if you are someone who's played FTL and you're looking for something like that, they are similar. I do think FTL is a little bit stronger of a game, but that's the closest comparison I could make, I suppose.
Cool.
Yeah, that's my 2 for now.
The production of the game looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's got a comic book kind of presentation or style to it. So I like
the
fantastic pulp comics graphics and art style is one of the features.
Yeah, the art style is a selling point. I should have mentioned that more. I guess I wish there were more of it. Like you do see it sometimes, but most of the time you are just exploring planets and you don't always see the comic book kind of panels.
Yeah, I was going to say, even just looking on the screens on Nintendo's site, it's like a lot of it is just atmospheric and like it looks cool, but then when it's the actual combat, it's where you sort of see the panels and you're like, okay, like the art looks pretty darn cool in that area, and it's showing the different races and like a close up of that. There's actually, I guess, one of the races has the Omega on its forehead there, so.
Yeah, the idea of Omega is like a resource or a technology you can find, and I think it has various uses in the game. So there's something special about this Omega resource or technology that plays a role. It can actually play a role in a lot of your different runs because I think it has a few different uses. So you do see that, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, thank you for talking about those games that I actually had interest in, but I wanted to hear more about them.
Oh, my pleasure.
Here we are. It just worked out perfect, didn't it? Now, another game that I would hope to have played by now, but it hasn't arrived in the mail yet, is a game that Casey was streaming this weekend. It's Nintendo's latest hotness, latest cardboardness.
Yep, and I've been wanting to play PSVR for so long, but instead I sold my PlayStation and I bought Labo VR.
Labo VR. I can't believe it's Nintendo VR is here.
It's a thing. It's a real live thing.
I can't believe it because Nintendo had VR 20 years ago.
In beautiful red and black fidelity.
Glory. Yes. Yes, Labo VR.
Yeah, man. So I picked up, I guess, I don't even know what they call it, but it's the big boy. It's the one with all of the different...
You can't even tell people what it's called?
Well, like how like the variety kit? I don't know. I think there's this starter kit, and then I think it's just like Labo VR kit or whatever. I got the one with all of them in there. Actually, how we're breaking it down on the site is I'm reviewing the camera and the elephant Labo, and Neil is doing the bird and the pedal, and then I believe John is on the blaster, and then I think he's touching on like there's like a VR plaza with like a bunch of little mini games where like you don't even need any of the other attachments. You just have like the actual goggles themselves. But yeah, so essentially you're gonna get in there and you're gonna build the goggles, and it's not too hard. None of these things are that difficult to construct. and the actual software that shows you how to make all these, really, really good. They do a fantastic job of, you could speed it up, slow it down, reverse it, like fast forward if it's too slow, you can literally rotate all the angles, zoom in, zoom out, so if there's any bit that you're not quite sure, like, did I click this piece in right? You can really zoom in and finagle around to really look and see if you actually did it right. But most of the stuff is pretty straightforward, so it's not really that hard. The goggles, I think, took me like a half hour-ish, maybe 45 minutes, that range, not too bad.
Really? That sounds like a long time.
Yeah, well, I think, everything's going to take a little bit of time.
45 minutes for Casey, maybe 20 minutes for...
Yeah, for the normal folk.
Normal person.
Yeah.
Speaking of the time it takes to build those, have either of you guys done the other Labo? Have you played with the other Labo kits that came out?
Yes.
Yeah, I did the variety kit when it first came out. I was on that review actually as well.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I think like all of these things more or less, like, so essentially when I was going through, I think it technically says 30 minutes for the goggles, give or take 30, like they give you a time range. It might be 30 to an hour. The camera was 30 to an hour. The elephant was an hour to 2 hours, I think it said, which the elephant took me about an hour. I think then like the blaster, they say, is like 2 to 3 hours, because that one has like a lot of rubber bands and moving parts. So,
oh, yeah.
And again, I think they are going to obviously sort of overshoot the estimate,
If they assume the kids are building them,
I was
right,
going to say, presumably it's a younger crowd, so, it's going to skew a little longer in the estimated time, but nothing too difficult. Like I said, it's, you sort of stick to the directions. The camera took me, not very long. Like I said, I think that was like, so maybe the goggles were like a half hour, the camera was like 45 minutes, and then the elephant was like an hour. And the camera is, it feels really cool because when you're actually in the VR, it's like you're taking a picture, so it feels very much like, oh, I've got a camera in my hand and I'm looking around, and like you can actually,
yeah, that is so neat.
And you can slide the lens to zoom in and out. And what's cool is it's got like a little thing where like when you slide it, you actually hear like a.
Yeah, that's so cool.
So the camera definitely feels really cool to use. But I mean, I guess I should talk a little bit about how the actual VR works before getting into the games themselves.
Yeah.
So it totally works. You like click on the VR mode on the Switch, and then it goes into the two circles, and then you slide it in to the goggles. And when you're using just the goggles alone, there's like a piece of cardboard that goes over it so your Switch doesn't fall out. And then, I mean, none of the games are really like you're moving around that much where it would probably fall anyway. But for safety's measure, you slide that thing on top. If you were using any of the other attachments, the Switch locks in, because what you do is you put the Switch in the goggles, and then the goggles slide into the other thing, and then there's no way that Switch is going anywhere. But
it's not going anywhere.
It totally works. I mean, it is VR. It is like you put it on, and like they drop you into the plaza, which is just like a whole collection of mini games. So like the first mini game I did was it was like car battle or whatever, and you've got a little car with like a hammer on the top of it, and there's a couple other cars driving around, and you're in like a little cylinder, and like you could look up and you see up there, it's like, oh, the cylinder goes super tall, and there's little pieces around, you drive around the car, and it's VR. It's cool. Like you're the suspended camera. So, I think that's how like Mario's going to work, when they showed that, the video, how it was sort of like you're the camera up top, and then you can control Mario, and then like you can run him up to the screen if you want. So you were looking around, you look down, you see underneath you look around, and it is definitely very cool. Fidelity wise, it's not, going to look, it doesn't look great, It's not like it's going to knock your socks off like, wow, I feel like I'm in this real place. But it is totally VR. You could turn all the way around 360 and it's all filled up, and
That is so
and
cool.
It's like I said, if you've never really used VR, and I've used it once or on like a phone, probably pretty similar.
Yeah, at PAX, right?
Yeah, so it's probably pretty similar fidelity, maybe I guess technically, I guess the iPhone has 1080, but anyway,
that wasn't on an iPhone though.
Oh, it wasn't?
Yeah, that was our first PAX together. So that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but yeah, so like I said, it doesn't visually like knock your socks off, and like when you go, when you're looking into the distance, it definitely gets a little fuzzy. But most of the stuff is sort of close based. You know what I mean? So with Oh yeah, sure.
I just wanted to jump in and ask about the comfort, because I guess it sounds like it's a really fun experience, right? Like I love the fact that they're doing Mario and Zelda. I'm really curious if they're going to add more games to have VR support with Labo. It sounds like that's a really good matchup or pairing. That all these first-party Nintendo games, let's really support Labo by throwing in this VR support. But I'm really curious about the comfort level. Like, how does it feel to like be holding it up and have it on your face? Like, do you get tired easily, or you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So, with the camera, it feels pretty good, and like it doesn't get that tiring because it's like you're sort of resting like the lens, right? You're holding it from like underneath it, or you could like sort of claw grip it. And then you have your other hand sort of supporting it. And like it with the camera, I didn't really find that I was getting too like fatigued at all after a decent play time. With the elephant, how it works is that you essentially make a mask. An elephant mask, and then it's like a cylinder that you hold like it's just like a cylinder, and that's how you hold the base of it. And then the trunk itself is two parts. So it's like goes down and then up, and you're holding it at the tip of the second part of the trunk, and it actually works like a little trigger. And I found when I was playing those games, which are definitely, and I'll get more into actual games themselves, the elephant game is way better than the camera game. So I was definitely playing it longer than the camera games I ever played. So I did find like sometimes my arm would get a little tired. And I guess I can get into the elephant game is really cool. So, and really how the elephant works in general is really cool. So when you're in it, the games have nothing to do with an elephant. So the elephant is purely aesthetic. But what's cool is it tracks where your movement is. So when you put it up to your face and you're looking through, you see like the how I said the end is sort of like a little gun almost. You see that out there, and like that's where your hand is, and you see the actual what the trunk would be of the elephant is represented by just like little white dots. So you could see in the VR like, okay, that's where like my physical elephant trunk is, right? And the game is it's just a series of little puzzles, and it's just get the ball through a ring essentially, or multiple rings. And it starts off by like, oh look, there's a ramp, and there's 4 pieces of the ramp and one's missing, so the ball just rolls down and it falls into the hole. But hey, there's our other piece of the ramp over to the right. So what you do is almost like an extendo grip. You're like using the trunk and reaching out over to that thing to get your gun like pointer on it, click it, and then you drag it over, and then you position it in the spot so that it would roll through the sphere or the ring, and then you'd complete that puzzle. So it's really cool because you're working in a 3D space, and you're manipulating all these different shapes, and they start off simple. Like I said, the sort of ramps, but then all of a sudden there's anti-gravity, and then there's like big twirling tubes that you can move around, and I'm trying to think what else, like fans, and like, oh, that fan is blowing my ball out of the way. Now I need to grab one of these other panels and block the fan. But it's just really cool how, like, so, your left hand is holding the base of the mask, holding the goggles up to your face, and your right hand is just using this trunk, and there's rubber bands in it. So it's not just like, oh, I can just move it up and down. It's got free range, you know what I mean? So like you're bending and manipulating this thing, and it's tricky. Some of the puzzles, like you're like, oh, that's right. I could sort of actually twirl it around this way, and the puzzles, start off fairly easy, but they get pretty difficult, and like eventually there are 100 different puzzles. So it starts off easy, like medium, hard, and then like they might categorize it as expert or like extra, I think it might actually be. And those ones are interesting because the earlier puzzles, they always give you the part, and you just like you need to manipulate what you're working with. The later puzzles will actually be like, here's 3 boxes of items you like of different pieces you could pick, and then you have more free range on how you get that puzzle completed. So it leaves more imagination, and like there's not going to be just one way to do it. You could really sort of mess around with the different ways.
I would have said, at the outset, okay, here are the different things in the Labo VR, the main kit, the variety kit, I suppose. I would have said Elephant is probably the one I'm the least interested in, but hearing you talk about it, it sounds really fun, actually, and it sounds like there's just a lot of depth to it, I guess. A lot of different things you can do. Like, I didn't know there were all these puzzles you'd be able to solve using that attachment. I've seen people doing, like, the drawing with the Elephant, I think. If I'm not mistaken about that.
Yeah, that's the other game.
That's the one that people seem to be showing off, but these puzzles are what really interest me about it. So I'm glad you got a chance to talk about that, because the more I see of this Labo VR, the more interested I am. But here's my thinking, guys. I kind of got burned on the first 2 Labo kits because I bought them at full price, and then maybe 4 months later, 3 months later, if that, they were already like half price, I feel like. And that doesn't usually happen to Nintendo products, right? We're used to Nintendo first-party stuff holding its value for so long that you just buy the game when it comes out, because there's no point in really waiting for a sale. But with Labo, the first 2 kits especially, and I think the variety kit as well, like, and I think you guys might have picked up one of those at Target or something, right? For $20.
Yeah, I'm holding it in my hands right now. The robot kit.
Yeah, there you go.
For $17.
Like I paid, $80+ Canadian for that, and then again a few months later it was half that, and maybe even cheaper, a little bit.
That's just that's annoying, right? And it's like, and it just hurts, and it's kind of like a punch to the stomach. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, like you said, it's so rare with Nintendo.
Now, here's the thing, though. I think if you did play it and enjoy it before that, I think that's a little less. Where it's like, well, I did have fun with it. But I hate it like when I buy a game and then you haven't even played it. Yeah. And then you see it for cheap. Like, I don't know. So
like I bought the robot kit. I never opened the robot kit. I did the variety kit. I enjoyed it. It was fun. We didn't build all the different things. We built the piano, which is really cool. The remote control car, the fishing rod. Like they're neat. I don't think the games are all, the same complaints a lot of people had. The games didn't have a lot of depth. But it sounds like they're really hitting their stride. I would hate to think that Labo is the VR kit is the last one in a series. I think they're really hitting their stride here, right? I think the vehicle kit was really good. I wish I got that, but again, like I still have 2 Labo kits that I haven't even finished with, so I'm not going to pick up another one. But I'm really tempted by the VR because everything people is saying about it, I think it was sold out on Amazon.com. I don't know if that's still the case, but people are clearly gravitating towards this, and it does seem really neat.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's why this whole thing, I think Labo is really cool, and the way they laid it out makes complete sense to me. I mean, maybe I would have switched this with the vehicle kit, like, in order of bringing it out. But that way of, okay, Labo, this is really cool. Let's put out, a variety kit that's not really that exciting, but the concept is exciting, and putting them together, and let's introduce it in a bunch of short, little, small ways. And then the robot kit is kind of like one big thing.
That was the game, quote unquote. The game.
Yeah, the
Labo.
game. That came with Project Giant Robot. And then having the next one I think was even, funnily enough, the vehicle kit looked way more appealing to me. I never picked it up because I was like, it's gonna go on sale because I burned the first
Same
time.
Same as me. I thought the exact same thing.
I actually went to go pick it up at Target, and that was sold out. And that's why. And so, but now this one, it's like, I pre-ordered it. From Best Buy, and it hasn't come yet because I was like, I'm not going to pay extra for shipping, like if it's free
like
shipping,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, but I just think that the concept of the VR is so much more fun. Having that, like, other than and then it's compounded with the Labo. It's kind of everything in one.
Yeah, and just VR in general. It's like people are interested in VR. You know what I mean? Like
Well, it's
there's
awesome.
no way around it. You know?
It's cool. Yeah, and like honestly, it's even like you know what's funny is constructing that Labo takes less time than setting up a VR thing, like any other VR.
Less
like,
wires, yeah.
oh my, well, no, I mean, like you don't have to have two 6 foot tall tripods triangulating in a big space in a room. Like you don't need any of that at all.
I think
It's
that's
all
always been
inclusive.
I think that's always been my biggest hang up about VR. I think it's really cool technology and I like to do it. I don't want it in my house though, because I don't have the
Yeah.
space or like the energy to put
Yeah.
everything together or to clean it all up.
And
And
think
you're
about
right,
Japan.
cables, towers, all this
Yeah.
stuff.
I
Yeah.
used to get
that's
annoyed
why
when I
it's
had
like-
to switch my Wii U game disc, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So, and you got to think about the compound this with Japan, which they don't have any room for VR. I have no idea how VR is doing over there. It's really neat technology, really
Yeah.
cool. I wish it the best, but like this makes so much sense because it's really simple and it's all inclusive and it just uses the technology that the Switch is naturally set up for. I just love that, and I love it because honestly, like VR might not be the best for, for it might take a lot of development and resources to make a fully game that you want to play in VR. That's fun to play in VR. I mean, a lot of games a lot of people have trouble playing long spurts of time, that kind of stuff. And this just me screams, and the way they don't have a head strap with this game, very Nintendo-ified because it kind of just encourages short bursts of play.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And I was going to
you know?
actually touch, I mean, just a real quick touch on the other games. So you got Elephant Game, like I said, is really cool. The puzzle game. There are 100 of them, and they're really cool and clever. And I've had a complete joy playing those. As far as the 3D coloring, that one is really cool too. It's not something I'm going to find myself probably in too much, but for people who love to draw and get super creative, like it is really cool to do it in like a 3D space, and they have different tools and stuff you can use. The camera
That's
game,
awesome.
it's like you're in the sea and you could take pictures, and there's just little quote unquote missions of taking pictures of different fish, or it's like, hey, take a picture of 3 crabs in one photo, and when you look straight down, you swim down and you go out, like you could find yourself in like a cavern at the end, at the bottom of the sea where there's like angler fish, and stuff like that. So it's cool. It reminds me of Aqua TV, but you're taking pictures and like, again, full 360, and then the other one is, do you remember from the very first Labo, the variety kit, when you built the house? You went in, there was like that little weird fluffy guy in there, like lived in the house, and you could sort of manipulate the area.
I never built the house.
Okay, so there's like a little fluffy creature in there, and then you would put like doodads on the side of the house, and then it would cause different things to pop up inside the house, and then he would react differently.
Okay.
So essentially the other area is like you're in a house with that little fluff thing, and you got to take pictures of it doing different activities, and you could sort of like look at the wall and like in it, like a certain spot on the wall, and something interacts, and then he reacts to that. Honestly, that one to me is super lame. Like Jordan was saying, it sounds like they were hitting their strides. Like they hit their stride with the elephant. Like the elephant is really fun. Both of them. One, like I said, is more creative, and people are gonna love that. The other one is puzzles, and then you could create your own puzzles. So it's like that to me is really, really cool. The camera, while I feel like the actual cardboard camera you build is awesome, the interactions not so much. Like they should have like fly me around Woohoo Island or something, and let me take pictures of the scenes there. I don't know, like I said, the
Well, I mean,
the
like, yeah, if they have
aquarium-
that setup, like, how can they
Yeah.
not do a Pokemon Snap? How can they
Yeah.
not make that a fun?
That would
like,
be
how can they not
perfect.
have a Pilot Wings thing where that was an actual thing where you go around and you have to take pictures of this one thing?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know.
that's not the game.
Well, we've got this now, right? With Pokemon Sword and Shield, can you not imagine them having a VR mode or integration with the Labo? Where,
Safari,
yes,
yeah.
you can use the Labo VR camera and play Pokemon Sword and Shield, and then just take pictures like that. Maybe something like that. I don't know.
That,
like
even if it
feels like it makes sense, right?
Yeah, even if it was like just like a Safari Zone, and you could only do it in the Safari Zone, but like that would still be amazing, like yeah. So the camera, and like I need to mess around with the camera stuff more just to make sure I'm not missing anything. But as far as I can tell, it's like you unlock missions and by taking like you complete missions by taking various pictures, and I don't know, it's pretty lame to me. But like I said, the elephant one is unbelievably cool, and like I said, it's got really cool tracking with like the Joy-Cons and just super cool. And as far as the no strap, it totally, I mean, with the camera, it almost feels natural, right? It's like I'm looking through, I'm taking pictures, and I like take it down for a second, and like, okay, and then you could jump back in. The elephant one too, it's like I would find myself like doing like beating a puzzle, and like the way it is, it's like each puzzle, there's like a set of 5 puzzles, and then there's 5 sets in each category, so to get to the 25 in each. And like I would find I'd do 5, and then I'd like put it down for a second, check my phone, be like, okay, pop it back up. So it's not, like you were saying, it's not like you're getting in that like, all right, I'm hooking up the PSVR and I'm jumping into this world for at least an hour, and you know what I mean? I want to be disconnected from the world and just re-enter this new world. This is definitely like, yeah, it's like I'm looking into the window, I'm getting it in small bursts, and then like being able to step back out, and you know what? I think that's okay. And I'm, I almost would think like if I had the strap, I would just end up having to take it off and on a lot anyway, like the way the games are set up. So
true, yeah. Now, what's interesting about this case is, see, now what throws a wrench into everything here with Nintendo, I think, is that they are going back and adding support for their most insanely big game of all time, Breath of the Wild, that you can play the whole game.
Yeah.
In VR.
I can't wait.
And that's where, yeah, and it's like, that's a huge deal. Like, I mean, in some ways, that's kind of like a crazy, like they could package Breath of the Wild again with the Labo, or with the strap, or like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like, that's
see,
crazy
I could see
that they're doing that.
I could see now wanting a strap maybe for Zelda, because that is going to be a game where you're like, well, I want to sort of take a bigger chunk in here. And like the way I think Mario is going to be set up, I think it'll work fine without a strap, because it's going to be sort of smaller areas that you're probably just going to do smaller missions or whatever, you know what I mean?
I mean, they're making something specific for Mario, right? The Mario sections are built for VR. They're meant to be bite-sized and really accessible, like the Labo VR stuff that you were talking about, Casey. But Zelda's a different beast, right? I can't imagine playing with the Labo, kind of holding on to like that and playing like the fight, getting to fight scenes or doing the Great Beast or something like that. I can understand like wanting to enjoy the beauty of Breath of the Wild through VR, but I don't understand playing the game through it. That seems, I don't know how that's going to work. I maybe you try it and it's okay, but I don't know about holding up the system for that long.
I almost feel like it is
Exactly.
totally going to be just like, no, I want to go to that top of that mountain and I want to look at VR and look at the world, or I want to go like sneak into Hyrule Castle when there's no enemies and I want to look at it there, I don't know if combat's going to be super awesome.
No.
But yeah.
I think it'd be cool to play the beginning, like the Great Plateau area in VR, like when you first look out after getting out of the initial cave and you look out over the Great Plateau and you see the world for the first time. I think those moments would be really cool in VR. But yeah, playing the game extensively with it, I just can't imagine that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be its selling point, but who knows? Maybe it actually works better. Going in with low expectations will actually only hopefully benefit it. But
that's right.
But yeah,
dude, it's so cool though. Overall, like, what do you think, Case?
I really like it. Like I said,
Is it your favorite Labo?
Oh, hands down.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I had heard so much about the 3D drawing of the elephant, but when I got in and got to play all those cool puzzle games, or like the little puzzles, like that, I was like, this is super fun. Like this is really like an actual, because I felt like with the first variety kit, I just built them. I've played them, you know what I mean? But I just felt like I was more fiddling with something than actually playing something. Where this, doing the puzzles and stuff, it felt like I was playing a puzzle game, So I'm excited. Like you said, I did stream the elephant and the goggles. You could find those on Nintendo World Report TV. I plan on streaming some more of the construction. I do want to get into the blaster. I think that's going to be, a pretty fun sort of. Again, I feel like that could be a fun actual game to play once you finish it. And I don't really know too much about the bird ones, but if you're flying around and you just get a look around from like a bird's eye view flying around areas, that seems pretty appealing to me too. So I'm definitely looking forward to the other ones, but I think this definitely is the more fun than the variety kit. And that elephant is actually pretty darn cool. So boom, Labo,
baby.
Old VR finally got to play VR.
The more I hear about it, the more I hear people talk about this one, the more enticed I am to go and get it. Like, it sounds like there's just so much content here for a really reasonable price, and I love how accessible it is, right? Like,
exactly.
Nintendo is for their entire history making games, right, and making consoles. They've always been able to nail accessibility. And with Labo, with VR, they've clearly found a way, right? The price is cheap. There aren't cables. There's no big setup to it. You build it yourself, so you get that fun of creating the product that you're going to use, which I think Labo, like that's a huge part of it, right? A huge part of the sale is the Lego element, right? You're building something, but it's not just there to look at after, like with Lego, or play a little bit. They're actually immersive, fun, enjoyable games, and they seem to be getting more of those as Labo continues as a product. So I'm really eager to see what happens with VR and Labo, but just what the next Labo kits are going to be, right? Like we have no idea what's coming next, if anything. So I hope it does well. I really do. I want to see more Labo. I think it's a fascinating product, and I'm really hopeful that this VR Labo is going to, turn heads, or maybe make Nintendo be like, oh, okay, yeah, we should keep doing Labo. We should roll out more products like this.
I mean, yeah, and I hope it's even if it's strictly Labo VR, I think that's still that's really cool. If they just do that, but yeah, I think it's exactly. I echo all your points. Now before we go, Jordan, you have one game that's Nintendo to talk about, I'm wondering if we can do this rather on the quick side.
Sure.
Yeah, a quick bite to finish up.
A quick bite. Yeah. I asked for your permission to end the what we've been playing segment with some Nintendo.
Beautiful.
Just because you guys have been what have we been up to? What have we been playing? And I have been playing a bunch of this. So the game I'm going to talk about is The Division 2. Which I've been playing on my PlayStation 4 Pro. Division 2 is a kind of cover-based shooter. It's very much multiplayer-centric, or at least that's the way I've been experiencing. I'm playing with two friends, and we only play together. We don't play solo, so it's also a chance to socialize and catch up, which is fun.
Sure.
The game's gorgeous. There's a ton of content. It does RPG mechanics really well. You're constantly leveling up, finding new gear that improves your stats. You have so many different pieces of equipment and guns that you're putting on, so you're always seeing changes to your stats, changes to your abilities and your damage output. The shooting's really good. It's a fun game with a lot of content, and I think the level cap is 30. We're around like 19 or 20. We're really looking forward to getting to level 30, because then there's raid missions open up that you can play with like 8 players at a time. Something like Destiny had those kind of things as well.
I was gonna say, it sort of have MMO elements, right? Like there's actually gear scores and stuff too, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of MMO elements. You can meet up with random people and go on missions, or you can play by yourself if you want to. But I think at the end of the month they're releasing some free DLC, which is just going to be these larger scale missions that you can't just play with like 2 or 3 people. You need to get together with 7 or 8 other people because it's going to be more enemies. It's going to be more difficult and stuff like that. It's a challenging game. You can't just go in guns blazing. You have to be more thoughtful about it. You have to use your abilities like setting up turrets. You can have like healing drones that follow you around and repair your armor. And you have to be strategic about maybe enemies flanking you or you flanking them, making sure that your teammates are all firing at the same guy to take them down before he charges you. It's a fun game.
You're facing other multiplayer. I mean, other people online.
No, it's strictly it's PvE.
Gotcha.
There is
Gotcha.
PvP, but again, I think you have to get to the level cap. It's a very specific part of the game. I think it's called the Dark Zone, and you can do PvP if you want to, but that is very segregated off. If you don't want to do that, you just want to do just playing with your buddies against the enemies in the environment. Yeah, there's a ton of missions, side missions. You're unlocking new waypoints and safe houses and weapon caches and stuff like that. So it has a very good reward system. It constantly makes you feel like you are accomplishing something. And I think that's one of the greatest features of the game is it rewards you a lot.
Yes. This reminds me, I mean, the concept-wise, I hope only concept-wise, of a certain game that came out last year that I was kind of hyped for. And then it turned it out like I just did not like it. And that was Payday 2. Oh man!
The Division 2 is actually has polish.
Yeah, I think it's hard to mention them in the same sentence.
I know, and I
get it.
I say it only to say how one does it right and how one does it wrong, and it's so funny. Like Payday 2, oh my goodness, just walk over here and hold A until a bar is done, and then
and it would take so long sometimes.
And then it would be you got the wrong key card. Yeah. Run,
try again, dude.
Run to that. Run. Oh man.
Funny enough, the only time I've played Payday 2 is in VR. I played with a couple of friends. We did that. You're right. It didn't seem to have a lot of fun or depth to it. We quickly.
I was just I don't even know. What a horribly designed game. Anyway. But I've always been interested in the Division, and since it's Ubisoft, right?
It is, yeah.
And I was never because of that. I was I hope it comes to. They're pretty good with Nintendo.
They are.
So,
the problem is it's so online focused, right? And I don't think Nintendo has the infrastructure to support it. I would love to see a game like this on the Switch. It's just again, it's got a ton of polish. It's a really great game. It looks awesome. Everything about it is really
and you're playing
top
on PC?
tier. PS4.
Oh, PS4.
Yeah. So cool. My 3 buddies, we hop on a PS4 and we play. And I'm just really enjoying that game.
Awesome.
Gonna be playing through it more. It's a good game. Again, I think to play kind of periodically throughout the year because they're constantly adding to it. And there is going to be paid DLC later, but just a quick side note about games as a service. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of that concept, but I think The Division is a series that does it really, really well because they give you a lot of free things. Free DLC, free updates, new guns, new missions, stuff like that. And then if you want to pay more and get, maybe a little bit heavier content or the cosmetics, you can do that. But the microtransactions or there's no pay to win or anything like that. If you want to spend a little bit of extra money in this game, you can do that, but you don't feel forced to. It feels like there's a lot there already just for the $60-$70 purchase that you've made, and I respect that a lot.
It really sounds like they're sort of aping the WoW formula of back in the day, where it'd be you buy the expansion, and they would give you a bunch of raids and updated content for raids. And then, eventually, you get to that point where it's now you buy the next bit of content to keep the show rolling,
you're getting a lot out of those content drops, though, right? It's not just one or two missions and then, pay us again. Yeah, they're very significant.
New raids, new items,
Yeah, so I don't even know what the paid content of Division 2 is going to be. I don't know if they've talked about it, but it's now the free stuff that's coming is already enticing. I think there's already a lot in the base game itself. Like, I'd be happy if they didn't add anything, but the fact that there's more and we can come back to it throughout the year, I think that's really cool. So yeah, shout out to the Division 2. I think it's a really good game for anyone looking for, a fun multiplayer shooter that just has lots to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to have the new eShop Roundup.
Ooh-wee. Alrighty, we are back, and it is that time, Perry. What time is it,
What
Perry?
time?
What time?
Jordan, do you know what time it is?
Something about eHaw. That's what I know.
The new eShop Roundup.
eHaw.
I love that part.
eHaw.
Alrighty, yes. Now, hey Perry, why don't you tell us your game of the week?
My game of the week. You want to hear my game of the week? Is this
Xenoblade
week's
Chronicles 2.
no. Is this week's hamster toss? Our Neo Geo game.
Time Pilot or whatever.
That's my game of the week.
I will tell you, that was almost my game of the week.
Why don't you tell me a little bit? Tell the people about it.
Well, that one came out in 1982, and by Konami. And the cool thing about that game, Perry, full
What?
360 degrees of motion.
Whoa,
You could go
I know.
in a
Isn't that
circle
crazy?
back in 1982, baby. And it's a hamster
It is actually
toss.
pretty crazy for
So
10
it's
years
gonna be
before I
good.
was born.
Yeah, you baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's $7.99, the old hamster toss price. Pretty good game.
Remember the call out, Jordan, in the early days when we saw who would be developing titles for the Switch. We saw Hamster was one of on the splash screen of developers, and we're like, who the heck is Hamster? And we're like,
The most prolific
calling
Switch
out to
developer
people.
of all time.
I remember calling out, like, if you know who Hamster is, like, let us know. And little did we know, they'd be publishing 2 games every week.
they weren't never the developer, or were they considered the developer of those games? No, right? Like,
No.
they're just publishing all these arcade games.
They're just a publisher house, yeah.
They pushing the money.
Yep, and they do great jobs. And the cool thing is, like, they work with Nintendo, you know, with their arcade archives. I think it's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, two of the arcade archives games that I really enjoy and was happy they came to Switch was the Bust a Move or the Puzzle Bubble games.
Yes.
I picked up both of those, and I can't tell you how many quarters I put into arcade machines for those ones. The movie, we were talking about movies at the beginning of the podcast, and the movie theaters near my place, or that we would always go to when I was in high school or whatever, they would have Bust a Move or Puzzle Bubble arcade machines, and I would spend probably more money on those arcade machines than I did on the movie tickets. So
That's amazing.
The movie going experience was a costly one for me, for sure. But
And now
yeah, I
you have
just love those.
infinite quarters
Yeah.
with these ones.
Just hit
Yes,
that L
exactly.
button or whatever button it is.
Yeah, go up to 99 credits if you want. Go for it.
All
But
right.
Jordan, what's your pick of the week for the eShop Roundup?
Yeah, my pick. I bought this without even thinking about the segment. I saw it looked cool. It's Super Weekend Mode, which is a really funny name. And it's a quirky, wacky game. It's $4.99. I think it released just a couple days ago. It's pretty fresh. It's very simple. It's got this 3-button gameplay. You basically have these 2 paddles at the bottom of the screen, and they're constantly shooting upwards at like this enemy that's in the middle of the screen. It very much looks like kind of an arcade shooter type game, but it's more of a maybe kind of a rhythm game as well. You're trying to catch hearts that are falling down on the screen and avoid like skulls and other bad things that are falling down. So you're automatically shooting up at this enemy. So that's kind of your main objective, to kill the big enemy on the screen. But you're also having to kind of rhythmically dodge bad things and collect good things that are falling down at you. So there's a lot of things happening. I don't know if did you guys see this game? It just looks so crazy.
Colorful
Yeah,
because it's funny because you look at it and it's like, okay, it sort of looks like an arcade game, and like the like border and UI, quote unquote, is like black and white, and then like all of a sudden you've got like a bunch of color on like the actual action and like floating skulls and all sorts. It looks like it would be a game you'd be like, this game is bananas, you know?
Yeah,
but in a good way.
It is. It is. Yeah,
it has
it's fun.
some good reviews online, so
yeah,
it does. It looks great.
As soon as
And
I
it's
saw
nice
the
and
name
nice
and
price too.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's cheap. I think it's on sale. Another 20 games, like just like the way the passive is. I think it's 20% off right now. I think you can get it for like $4 or $3 or something.
It's
like
$4.99 right now, on sale down to $3.99.
Yeah,
Nice.
It's a good price for a fun but super hard game. Like it's one of those games that looks really cute and like, oh, this will be fun and simple. Nope, it's super hard.
It's brutal.
Nice.
I got there's like 9 stages. I think I got to the 3rd stage after playing for like an hour or something. It's really tough. Just a quick thing about the controls. It's basically you use L and R to move so you've got a blue paddle and a red paddle. They can be on the left side of the screen or the middle of the screen. So you use L to move your left paddle and R to use your right paddle, of course. So you're basically just moving them either left or right or to the center together to collect the falling things, the hearts, or avoid the skulls, pretty much. And so again, simple game to play, like switch and shoot, but yeah, really hard to master, hard to do it well. Yeah, for sure.
Those are the best games, man. Like I said, you get in on the base level relatively easy, and then it's just learning it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I need to admit something here.
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
I wasn't looking at the show notes, okay? And I jokingly said...
Time pilot.
My whole thing was... Because I didn't have anything picked out, because I couldn't get on the internet on the Switch. So I just knew that obviously Hamster would have released something this week, and that's why I said that. Not knowing that was Casey's pick here that he wrote down on the notes. I was just totally
How'd you think
kidding.
I knew about it so well off the top of my head?
Because I thought you had your Switch there. And
Man, this
looking
kid
at
really
it.
knows
And
his 1982
so,
Konami game.
I totally was not trying to steal your game from you, which is hilarious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry
I did
about
have
that.
a shout out. Generally speaking, with the eShop, we sort of like to pick games we didn't really know about. That
Right.
Sort of put a spotlight on a game that people aren't going to be familiar with. So it's like I don't want to pick the Cupheads of the world. But I did want to give a shout out to Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, because that game looks pretty sweet. And I've heard some really good things about it. And I heard it
like
plays very well on the Switch.
Port.
So yeah, and like there's I believe Matthew did the comparison video on NWR TV with like the PC at super high, graphics versus Switch, and clearly the Switch is not going to look as good, but in comparison, it does a pretty dang good job, and from everything I've heard, the game is pretty cool. So that's my known shout out, and that one's $29.99. So
there
you have it.
Cool. Well, that'll do it for our new eShop Roundup. It's old now. Ye old eShop Roundup. And now it's time for Ye Old News Block.
News Talk with Casey Gibson.
Yeah, and we were fortunate enough to get some big old news drop literally 15 minutes before recording, which also was nice because the video was 15 minutes long. I was like, man, it's a sign from above.
This is the definition of hot off the presses. Like, it couldn't be hotter.
Except for that this episode is posting 2 days later. Yeah. But anyway.
It has simmered since. But for us, it is still scorching. It's like a fajita. Yeah. You can hear it coming from a mile away.
Yep.
Oh, that's the best when you... Speaking of which, I had Mexican food for dinner tonight.
That's the head turner. You know when you turn over and you're like, I'm getting fajitas.
And it smells so good. Anyway, Joker DLC and the Smash 3.0 patch will be launching tomorrow, aka yesterday if you're listening to this when it comes out. They showed off Joker, all the animations and stuff. Joker attacks with knives and kicks, but he also has a gun. He uses his persona. The victory screen is themed on a win from Persona 5, including comments from the other Phantom Thieves on the fight. The stage is Mementos, which is the sort of the dungeon that's like you keep going back to throughout the entire game. and you work your way down. But what's really cool is it changes depending on the music being played, and they have music from Persona 3, 4, and 5, and it changes up the color schemes and everything, which is just super duper cool. There are also going to be Mii costumes from Sega and Atlas, which are not included in the DLC pack, the fighter pack. If you bought it, you'll have to cough up 75 cents each. But they have Morgana.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, they've got Morgana, Teddy, and the protagonists from Persona 3 and 4, as well as Tails and Knuckles jumping in on that as well. So if you want those, fork over the extra cabbage, boys. Also included is the stage builder, which we talked about last week, on that commercial that they by accident leaked, I guess. So you got the stage builder, you got a video editor, shared content, a new hub for sharing videos, Mii fighter designs, and stage designs. And then you could also follow creators or report them if they're making like penis-shaped levels, I guess. And then finally, you got Smash World, the first new game in the Switch Online application. Smash World allows for streams of video and to view and queue for download recommended stages. And those will be available, like I said, as of... if you're listening to this, it's already available, so you can go download all that good stuff. But what do you guys think? I know Perry's not the world's largest Smash fan, but how do you feel about this, Jordan?
I like Smash.
Well, I know you're... Yeah, but you don't get excited for, like, new DLC about it.
Yes, I do.
No,
it's
you
just not
don't.
when it's DLC that I couldn't give a crap about.
So I was right.
No, I like new DLC, but when it has nothing to do with Nintendo and it's Super Smash
What are you talking
Bros.,
about, man?
it's
Persona
stupid.
has a legacy on Nintendo.
And yeah, I mean, we've
Joker
all
does?
been
Persona Q,
speculating.
baby.
We've all been speculating that Persona might be coming to the Switch, and hopefully we'll hear about that by the end of the month. As far as the DLC goes, I haven't bought the Fighter Pass yet. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I wanted to see what they were going to do with Joker. The truth is, Casey, you nailed it. I mean, I think the stage changing with the music, I think is awesome. I love Persona music. Like, I listen to that music just regularly. I've got it on my Spotify playlist. Persona 5 music is awesome. But to have music from Persona 4 and 3 is so cool. I was not expecting that. I think there is one omission that Matt was talking about in the Slack chat from Persona 5 music, but I think getting 11 tracks and also representing the 3 games is totally worth it. I think that's really cool. So yeah, I might, frankly, I'm interested in buying the character more so for the music and the stage than I am for Joker himself.
The actual character.
Yeah, I think that's a really neat thing that they're doing, where they kind of package all 3 elements with each fighter that you buy, or if you buy the Fighter Pass, you get all that stuff. It's not just a character; you get a stage, and the stage has these different elements to it, but also you're getting this really cool music. So, yeah, I'm on board for that. I don't know if I'm going to jump in right away. I do want to see more, what the other fighters are going to be, but I imagine that. Maybe in the summer or in the fall, when I have another big Smash party, all my buddies come over, I'll be like, okay, I'm buying the Fighter Pass tonight. We've got 2 or 3 fighters by now. Enough
$3
variety.
at the door, boys.
That's right. Yeah, gotta raise some money. They've got to pay cover to get in tonight. Honestly, that's a really good idea. I might do that. But yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm just excited to see.
It's a
new
2 Mii
characters
costume minimum.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing, actually. The Mii fighter costumes costing extra. Like, I get that, but it's 75 cents. Could you not just throw the Persona ones in with Joker? Like, it does feel a little bit nickel and diming,
I
like almost literally nickel and diming.
Yes,
The
very
best
much
was
so, yeah.
totally the Wii U Smash, like all that DLC.
I know,
my
yeah.
God,
Like, why not make it 7 cents? Like that, or 15 cents. Then they could literally say it's nickel and dimed.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, like, to me, I'm like, who is actually buying those? Because who actually plays with the Mii fighters?
Yeah.
But at the same token, I bet you, like Persona fans are hardcore, so it's like, they're gonna be like, well, I need to buy that so I can have Joker beat the crap out of Morgana or something, so
yeah. It's just funny. It's just funny. Like, you have a fighter pass, you have a season's pass for the game, but you still want to sell all of these little ticky-tack kind of things on the side, they're very, very minor by comparison, right? The Mii Fighter costumes they're not, it's not extra music, it's not a new character, a new stage. It is very small, I think. So to charge 75 cents for it, like, maybe they made a lot of money off the Wii U version doing that. Maybe that's the reason, but I just don't see the value in it.
I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, actually.
Well, I'm like you said, I haven't bought or purchased the DLC pack, and it's just one of those things I knew I would get it eventually because I jump back into Smash enough, or often enough that it's like, I want to check out the characters. Like you said, to me, it's like the music and the stages are far more, almost just as interesting, I should say. Especially like Persona has such good music, like especially Persona 4 and maybe. I want to say, like, I want to say I'm surprised all around, but, like, if it was just Persona 4 music, I'd be like, okay, like, that makes sense, but, like, to dive back into Persona 3 as well is super cool, because that game is awesome as well.
And you know what's going to happen, Case? Like, now that they've got Persona 4 and Persona 3 music in Smash,
we need
the next conversation, maybe the Persona coming to Switch is all 3. People would lose their minds, right?
Persona,
I would lose my mind.
Yeah. Oh man,
I'd be
cool.
So thrilled to see Persona 4 Golden come to Switch and Persona 3 Portable or Fez or whichever. I don't even care. Just bring everything Persona to Switch.
Yeah, I really want 5 because I want to beat that game. But yeah, for like Persona 4 Golden was the first time I seriously really contemplated starting an RPG up immediately after I finished beating it.
I'm 100% with you there. I felt the exact same thing.
Because it's like every RPG, like, even like Xenoblade 2, which is like one of my favorite games ever. It's like by the time I'm done with it, I was like, all right, like now I could sort of move on and see, like, play some other games, like that was amazing. But like Persona 4, I was like, I want to play this again, like right now. And like, I think I might have even like the next day like played a little bit of the beginning, but then I was like, I cannot do this again. Like that was too long. I think that's when I was like, you know what, I'll go play Persona 3 instead. But
is it like were you like sad it ended?
Yeah,
like,
it was truly like, because it's one of those games, and like having now played Persona 3 and like half of Persona 5, you sort of see like the formula a little bit, of how it works with like, okay, the calendar and the days and like, oh, like that's by the love interests and that's like the best friend and like they're sort of similar, like they're like, oh, that character is sort of similar to that character, but Persona 4 Golden was the first one I played, so it was all so fresh and it was just like, oh my god, like you truly like became friends with these characters and like you cared about them, so like for it all to be over was like, yeah, it was like upsetting.
To lose your friendship with all your friends.
Now I've got no friends again.
I mean, this is the true problem with really good RPGs, right? Really good RPGs that have really relatable characters that you form a bond with. The ending is always bittersweet because, you got to the end, you completed the game, but now you have to say goodbye to these characters that you've kind of fallen in love with, Like, you do. Like, you kind of see them grow, you see their friendships and their relationships and stuff, and you get attached to it. And then when the game is over, it's like, oh man, like I'm not going to get to learn or see these characters anymore. Like I need to go on to a new story, and it does kind of feel there's a sadness to that, I guess, And I felt the exact same thing with Persona 4, just like you did.
And that's sort of the feeling with like playing Persona 4 again is because you don't. I mean, I guess if you played with like a guide, you could maybe, I guess, get all of the social links maxed in one go.
It's really hard. It's really tough to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was one of those where it's like there's still a lot on the table that I haven't experienced, that I haven't like bonds that I did not see all the way through, bonds with people that I did barely even scratch the surface,
Yeah.
So it's one of those games where it's like you could just jump back in and play differently, in terms of who you're going to be connecting with. But yeah, Persona's awesome, and I hope it comes to Switch.
But, you know what else is awesome? Marvel.
Well, then why don't you tell us about it? Because I would disagree with that.
Oh, I just... Wait, what do you mean?
I don't.
Is there Marvel news or something?
Oh,
I was just saying Marvel's awesome.
You have to be looking at the show notes now, you big Jimmy.
I am
gotcha,
now.
Gotcha.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way.
The first time I actually wasn't. No, actually, the first time I wasn't. But yeah, Obviously, Casey, that was a joke. Yes, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is out on July 19th. All right, that's probably all we need to say about this. Unless, Jordan, are you a big fan of Marvel Ultimate Alliance?
I'm looking forward to this game because I enjoyed the first ones. Any of these games where you get that kind of co-op brawler action type style. You got four buddies coming over playing this game. I think they're really fun. I think the first two Marvel Ultimate Alliance games are really good. It's a great kind of co-op local experience that you get. So I'm excited about this one. I mean, Switch has been great.
Is it
for
online at all?
I don't know. That's a really good question. It's certainly
'Cause, man,
built
if it's
for local,
online-
but online would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. Now, next up, though, we do have not only a Smash update, but just a Switch software or
Just real quick, local and online multiplayer. The game can be played offline or online with up to 4 players on a single
That's
screen
awesome.
or using
Yeah.
multiple.
There we
So
go,
boom,
Jordan.
there you go.
Perfect. I mean that's a day one purchase for me. The problem is July now with that coming in on the 19th. We've already got a bunch of other games like big AAA titles coming to Switch in July. So it's going to be a really busy month.
Ooh, the rest of the year, I
what
feel
else?
like is going to be coming
Fire
hot
Emblem
and
is a
heavy.
week after, and I think there's something a week before as well.
Mario Maker is in
Mario Maker is
June,
sometime in
right?
June. Yeah.
Oh my
Astral
there's something else in
Chains
July.
in
End of
August.
Yeah.
God, I can't
Is it
wait for
really?
that game, baby.
Oh, Dragon Quest Builders is I think the 19th as well, or it's another day in
nice.
July. So
And then you got Dragon Quest 11 in September. Ooh,
And
Lord.
guys, I hate to say this. No, I actually love to say this. Animal freaking Crossing.
Yeah.
Baby,
Is also
dude,
coming
and
out.
think of Mario Golf. It's coming this year. That's
do you
my.
think this year? Put the prediction down here, Case?
Yeah,
I thought you were
I'm-
gonna say
I'm-
and think another stupid update to
No,
Mario.
no. Hey, I went back and played as Kamek, man. No, I'm saying
I
Mario Golf. It's gonna be this that surprise game at E3. That's
And
like,
Luigi's Mansion.
hey, it's
3.
coming out.
I think they just have
And
so many
Pokemon
games.
Sun
I would love
or
to see a
Sword
good
and-
Mario Golf game, but they've got so much on the second half of the year schedule already.
Oh, just give me more.
Man.
I need to hit the links.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a whole software update for the Switch or hardware or update. Is that what or software?
That's
What do
the
you call it?
software update, you Jimbot.
But it's like to the UI, I guess system.
So, like,
system
the
update is what I'm looking
software.
for. You don't system. Yeah.
System
not
software.
But it's not software though, is it?
It's the system's
it's the-
software, isn't it? It's the software
Yeah,
inside the
it-
system.
Yeah,
right?
it's not like it's not like the
Think it works.
hardware's
Well,
getting upgraded.
isn't that the user interface? I think. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's still the
whatever.
software.
Sure. But 8.0 has already launched. Joy-Con update. Ability to sort all software by publisher, time played, last played. Yeah, how the heck do they know? That's
They've
you know,
known the
like,
whole time.
Why
Barry.
don't they have that stupid app that is the best thing on 3DS?
I love that.
3DS
the
does
log.
everything better than Switch. Mark my words,
Debatable.
it does. Every single thing it does better than Switch.
Sorry,
The
Casey,
only
it's not
thing
debatable. It's a fact.
Yep. No, it's a fact.
It plays
No, play
Smash
it.
Brothers better.
It does. I
No,
love.
I'm
I
talking
like
about the Switch.
No, I like the 3DS version of Smash better than.
Well,
Switch.
that's because you're a big dumb idiot.
No.
No.
That's so good.
You know what's great about calling someone a big dumb idiot? It's just you can't like
You
know
just
the
say
way to
no.
get-
Try
You
and
just say
retort,
no.
I
No,
dare
I'm
you.
not.
A good way to end an argument is just to go, yeah, you're stupid, because you just can't say anything after that.
Oh,
you know?
no,
It's like, well,
you're stupid.
No,
yeah.
yeah. It's like, anyway, takes one to know one. No, it also has a new transfer ability for saves to move from one Switch to another, which is, I think it's like a per game basis, right? Like you can put a Switch, which, by the way,
Switch?
we kind of talked about this, right, when we were talking about the concept of new Switches coming, like a Switch Mini. And does this not make so much sense? Where if you're playing Switch at home and then you can just directly download your
absolutely,
save on
absolutely.
your Switch Mini, that's perfect. Because that way it's just a game by game, and you just whatever you want to play.
No, that totally makes more sense.
I
for sure.
wonder if you have two Switches if you literally like, let's say, like I wonder that if you could transfer, meaning like on my other Switch Mini, I could just download the save. And then it would, like, I don't necessarily have to, like, go to my first Switch and be, like, transferred over here. It's like, I'm just going to grab it and then download it at work or something like that. Anyway, I don't know. That would be kind of cool, though. Now this one, has this, like, been launched now? Like, is this out now?
I've seen people do the zooming in. Or you're talking about the save transfer.
No, Zoom. I just didn't know. Is this out?
I think I've seen screenshots of it.
I haven't updated it. Anything.
Neither
but
have
anyway, you can zoom. You can zoom on games and the UI elements by double tapping the HomePod.
Mm-hmm.
What is this?
I don't know. I haven't messed with it.
I mean, that sounds awesome.
It's perfect. It's perfect for those
really
games where the text is too small, and if you're playing handheld, it's still hard to read. This seems perfect for that.
Yeah, but like, there's even some games where like when you play them on the Switch, you know, they're pretty on the handheld. They're pretty small. I'm thinking like Tetris, even like stuff like platformers, like Slime Sand or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think that's a really cool thing. This one's also one that I will do, which is the auto wake up when removing from the dock. I've always thought that's annoying because like I always have to pick it up and then
hit the
make
button.
it go to sleep to like put it in like a case or something.
I pick it up and I put it to sleep.
Like a little baby. And so I that's cool. You can turn that off now. And then you can disable the 3D visuals for VR. Because that's exactly what VR is for, you know?
Yeah. You're going to play those VR games on the TV like an idiot. And most importantly.
Yes, absolutely most importantly.
We got new character icons from Splatoon 2. Sort of random, you know, like, okay. And Yoshi's Crafted World, baby.
That makes a little sense.
I bet you there's the cutest Shy Guy that I'll have to switch to.
I can't believe we're still getting icons for Splatoon 2. Like,
well, yeah, that's what I was
2
saying,
years
like,
later, right? It's crazy.
And they're probably just like an inkling in like a slightly different pose.
Yeah.
But this next one, Perry, this is all you. Take it.
Yes, 6 new super rare games were announced. They've done this before in a big batch of games, and they did it again. And that is Toki Tori and Toki Tori 2 will be combined on one super rare release. We have the Dark Side Detective, which is this cool adventure game. I think it's like a point and click. Earthlock JRPG, Wolverblade, which is that
David
that cool,
loved that game, I believe.
Side-scrolling. Yeah, a lot of people did. And then Rive Ultimate Edition, which you reviewed for the site, and you liked it. And so I'm definitely interested in all of these. Honestly, I think they're really cool. I think they're pretty cool releases.
6 more unboxings coming up.
Or 5, I guess. You know, because
they're
Toki Tori is Toki
they
Tori
gymmed
2
it up.
one.
Yeah, that's
They really gymmed it up.
Yeah, never mind. I'm never getting another super rare game again.
Yeah. But yeah, this is cool. It's fun to hear. It's cool that they announce them. Although there's something really fun like having that means we know the next, half the year. So there's something fun about like waiting each month to be like, ooh, what's coming up next? And they can give teases, but it's also fun to get
now they
batches
ruined
like
it.
this too. Now they've really done it.
Yep, those sons of guns.
Yeah. But yeah, my super rare collection's turning out pretty good. I regret not getting the first ones that I tried to get because now they're so ridiculously expensive, like hundreds of dollars.
Perry, would you say they're super rare?
Yes, I would.
There we go.
I would say
explain
that.
the price. Yeah.
I'm gonna start a short batch Switch game company called Extremely Rare.
Yeah.
Extremely hard to find.
Expensive. Super expensive games.
Yes.
There you go.
And then I'll just make 5 of them, and they're gonna be $1 million each.
Yep.
There you go.
Can I have one?
All right. You can have one.
You're not supposed to share these good ideas on the podcast, Perry, because now someone's going to take that from you.
And his name is Jordan.
Before. That's right. Oh, yeah. Hold on, I'm buying the website as we speak.
Yeah.
Give me a minute here.
Well,
go for it.
While you're doing that, let's multitask. What's the next bit we got here, Jordan?
So I'm glad you gave this to me because we've got Settlers of Catan is coming to Switch on June 20th, and I ever since this got announced, which I think maybe late last year or middle of last year, we knew that Settlers of Catan was coming to Switch at some point, and it's a game that I've played hundreds of times for sure. I'm really curious to see how it turns out on the Switch. I think the board games have kind of been hit and miss in terms of how they perform or how they mimic or kind of remake that board game feeling on a console. So I'm curious to see if it turns out, because it's a game that I would definitely pick up and play with my usual board gaming buddies if the port turns out to be good. So I am really eager to see more of this.
Yeah, I know with Carcassonne, it was a pretty crummy port, right, Perry? Because it didn't have online or anything. So hopefully
didn't have online, and it was just so janky.
Because originally we were thinking like, oh, this could be a great game to play, online
awesome.
with each other.
Yeah.
So hopefully
hopefully
this one has online and stuff, because I've never played it. From what I hear, it's sort of like a more complex Carcassonne, right? Like because it's like instead of square pieces,
not really. I mean, it's a tabletop game.
But it's similar vein, right?
It.
But
I mean, you're trying to collect victory points to get to win the game. If you get to 10 or something, maybe you win.
I mean,
they are pretty different though.
I mean,
Well,
they're similar games just in concepts, but like they're very, very different.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, it's definitely a game like I've seen and been interested in checking out. So that hopefully the port's good and maybe Jordan can kick my keister.
I would gladly do that if the port is good.
Now, to wrap up the news block, we've got some Moonlighter news, which is a game I reviewed earlier I guess it was actually last year, right?
Did you review it?
Yes, I sure did.
Wow.
Super fun game. I really liked it a lot. And they are celebrating 500,000 units sold, which is just great news. And they announced
I have one of those.
A new expansion, Between Dimensions, coming out just 2019.
Did we say the title? It's Moonlighter. I feel like I didn't hear the title.
Did I not say Moonlighter? Sorry. Yes, Moonlighter.
Moonlighter.
Yeah, super fun game where you are running a shop, but also dungeon crawling and killing enemies and gathering those loots and then bringing them back to your shop to make more money and upgrade your character. And it's just a really nice, rewarding, fun gameplay loop. And it was. I really enjoyed it, and now we're getting a new expansion. I'd be eager. I believe there was 4 different dungeons that you would go into, and then you'd unlock the 5th. So I'm guessing maybe it's just, if it was DLC, I feel like it were categorized as DLC. I'd feel like maybe 1 dungeon, but an expansion, maybe there's 2 more and it unlocks a 3rd or something to that extent. So that is definitely going to be something I'm going to keep an eye out on. But yeah.
Casey, do we know if this is a paid expansion or is it a free DLC that they're adding? I guess if they're using the word expansion, the implication is that you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably going to be paid.
Okay.
I would imagine.
Because they did a lot of free content drops after the game came out, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was a good amount of free stuff that they released, but like I said, by the name expansion, to me that totally seems like hey, we're this is going to be like a sizable download kind of thing. Like it's going to be worth paying the money. Like you're going to get your money's worth kind of thing. That
makes sense. Yeah. If you like this game, it's going to be a sizable chunk. You can buy. Maybe it's a couple more dungeons or a new town or something like that. Yeah, that's cool.
Let's see. Between Dungeons will fill the current dungeons with new monsters, introduce the intradimensional dimension that's swarming with powerful new mini-bosses, and add trick shots that grant players special powers that twist the game's mechanics and throw into full gear. Is sold there. It doesn't. It's not saying if it's going to be paid or not.
Okay.
But
interesting.
But yeah, so sounds like it's gonna regardless be a pretty pretty good piece of content to be dropping. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that because it is a pretty sweet game. Now,
cool.
That's the end of the news, and I think that's going to take us to a little breather before we get into a big old section that Jordan has hooked up. He has done his research, and it is going to be a delight, and I'm looking forward to it.
And we are back from that little musical break, and we have the introduction of a new segment to the show. This was the segment that we had a contest for, and our friend Joseph, he pitched this idea for the show, and he came up with the idea, and I thought it'd be cool to get some other staff involved with Talk Nintendo. And so I asked Jordan to help us out with this new segment, which is called, what is it, Jordan?
History's Mysteries.
So you just heard the new jingle there. I don't know what it's going to sound like, but I'll come up with something.
I bet it sounded amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Amazingly bad.
Got him.
I was like,
Yeah.
I could hear the should I say something nice or should I say something bad? And then you went with the nice, and then turned it bad. I like that.
I'm like the Sour Patch Kids, but I'm sweet first, and then I'm sour.
Yes. So the idea of this is to go through weird things, like mysteries. I mean, just funny and weird things that have happened in the history of Nintendo. And so I showed this to Jordan. I thought, if you can think of anything cool, and he came up with something amazing. And now basically he's going to host it. So I'm going to hand it off to him. There you go. Here's the reins.
Thank you very much, Perry.
Yep.
Just grabbing the reins there.
Take care of my horse.
I will indeed. I was trying to not ride him or her into the ground.
Thank you.
We'll see. So History's Mysteries. The first episode, I wanted to talk about something that is of interest to me, but also of interest to at least one of you guys. And I know Casey's a big fan of the Xenoblade series, the second game in particular. So I thought that Xenoblade Chronicles might be a good place to start the series, because it's the Xeno series has a long history, obviously. We talked about Xenogears recently on the Thirsty Mage. But yeah, Xenoblade has become the kind of quintessential RPG series for Nintendo, I think. I think it's worth looking at.
Well, I like the title you have for this.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I should probably do that first. So History's Mysteries Episode 1, I've called it The Journey of Xenoblade from Japan exclusive to major Nintendo IP. And I think it is a major Nintendo IP because we're seeing Xenoblade representation a little bit in Smash. We are seeing DLC for these games, right? Clearly, Xenoblade is a franchise that Nintendo wants to continue to support, and it looks like Monolith is going to keep doing that. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the first, or where I want to start, is a kind of a timeline for Xenoblade Chronicles, which originally launched on Wii. And I want to compare it with two other RPG releases that also came to Wii around a similar time, or we'll see what their time frame is. So for the Wii, Xenoblade Chronicles came to Japan June 10th, 2010, to the EU August 19th, 2011, so just a little bit over a year later. To Australia about a month after that. So EU and Australia are really close together, as they usually are. And then North America didn't get it until April 6, 2012. So almost 2 full years between the Japanese launch and the North American one, which seems curious for a game that would eventually become this big, important series for Nintendo, right? Why did it take so long for localizing this game or deciding to release it in North America? That seems curious. So that's kind of where this whole thing starts.
Yeah, and I remember that time very much so, because vocal internet was there, and I just remember thinking, why? And this was, I mean, honestly, and this was the trio of games, right?
That's right.
Of Wii games, right? And I don't know if that's in here.
It's okay. Yeah, I think I do mention them. I'll mention them at some point. Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles, Pandora's Tower, and The Last Story.
Right.
The funny thing about these games, and Xenoblade in particular, is that you're getting to 2010, 2011, this time period where the Wii's momentum is maybe starting to slow down a little bit, right? The Wii started off really strong. It was sold out for what I can remember, like a year, maybe 2 years after its launch. It was still selling out of stores, still really hard to find. And I'll be completely honest, the Wii wasn't a huge system for me. During that time, because there weren't a lot of role-playing games, I kind of gravitated towards other consoles. I played a lot. This is when I would be playing Mass Effect on my Xbox 360, or I would eventually get a PS3 during this time. Maybe I go back to playing more games on my PC as well. And I kind of moved away from at least console Nintendo during the Wii.
That makes sense.
Right?
I mean, it definitely was not RPG central.
No,
and this is for me too.
Every other central
was totally like this was I was all aboard. And then I went to college, the year after it came out, or like it came out in 2006 and I went to college in 2007. So it was one of those, for my Nintendo gaming was definitely on the down and down at that point. And so Xenoblade, like I learned about this whole story, like after April 2012, you know what I mean? So like for me, it was fascinating not to really live it, but like to go back and look at it. But were you following, like, I know obviously you said you weren't, playing as much, but were you still like in the ecosystem where you heard about Xenoblade before it came out?
I mean, the thing was, everyone had a Wii around me, right? And I had friends that were still playing it, and it came out at parties and gatherings of friends. But all the games were so kind of casual or multiplayer focused, at least the ones we were playing, that when I was at home gaming by myself on weekends, and I think I was at university around this time as well, and I wasn't playing the Wii because I didn't find a lot of compelling single player experience that I wanted to play. There are other reasons why I kind of moved away from it. The control scheme or the split Wiimote and nunchuck, like I never really felt comfortable with that. I guess I wanted something more traditional at the time. But the big thing for me was that, where are all the role-playing games? Like I love Japanese role-playing games especially, and the Wii basically wasn't getting any of them. And now there's these three, Pandora's Tower isn't quite a JRPG, but Xenoblade and Last Story for sure, these two huge role-playing games that people have been talking about for a while. It's not like they were some mystery to fans in North America, because the internet is full force here. Social media, people are sharing images and ideas, discussions about these games. Great. When are they coming to the Wii? You mean they're not coming to the Wii? What the hell's going on here? Like, why would these games, which are clearly there's a lack of on this console, why would you not be bringing them to the West? It didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I wasn't kind of fully in the middle of the discussions, but I was aware of the situation and kind of, I guess popping in here and there and seeing if there were updates on it.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what happens is it takes nearly 2 years for Xenoblade Chronicles to be released in North America. It's a complex localization. There's lots of voice acting there. If it's coming to Europe earlier, which is going to have more languages to translate it into, right, for the EU, it seems kind of curious that it would come to the EU first, and then we'd have to wait another 9 or 10 months for it to come to North America. So again, those are kind of the reasons why I'm thinking about this as an interesting situation.
Right.
So by comparison, I looked at two other Wii games, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, which again was released in all territories, came to Japan February 22nd, 2007, November of the same year in North America. So that's only a difference of 9 months, right? Fire Emblem, another game there's going to be lots of localization there, lots of dialogue, lots of text. So this game's only taken 9 months. So again, it's a little bit earlier than Xenoblade, but kind of curious there. And then the next one is Tales of Symphonia: Dawn of the New World. Another game came to Japan June 26, 2008. November 11th, 2008 in North America. So this time only a difference of 5 months for those games. So there's 2 other role-playing games that are very text-heavy, dialogue-heavy. Tales of Symphonia has a lot of voice dialogue. So this clearly isn't a localization problem. It's not that Xenoblade Chronicles is taking this much longer to localize, and that's why it's not coming to North America. It's clear that there's a choice or a decision that's been made not to bring this game to American shores.
Yeah, and I
I
believe
mean, yeah, it has to be.
I believe the EU version had like the full English, translation, right? Like,
it did,
I mean, I'm
yep.
sure they would have had to make, some
You're talking
adjustments.
about in Xenoblade? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe that the one that we,
I mean,
what we
obviously
got
they
was-
still
was
use
the British
like,
version,
British
right?
accents, like
well, even the spelling too, if I remember correctly, when I played it on 3DS, I think, right?
This would make a lot of sense that they wouldn't go back and do more localization or more changes when you've already got this version that would be sold in the UK, obviously, that it already has that English and all the voice acting.
Yeah.
They can just use that. So it kind of makes sense that they were so reluctant to bring it to North America that when they finally do, they're not going to do a lot with it. They're just going to give you kind of a repackaged version that came to the EU.
Exactly.
Yeah, they don't
or
want
UK,
to.
right?
So I think that
into it.
also supports the this was a decision. This wasn't a problem with localization. It was just should we release it? Should we not?
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
it's like, okay, we can give it a shot.
So I was looking at an Engadget article from 2009, and they were suggesting, I think they were interviewing someone from Atlas, and Atlas suggests this timetable for localization that puts it around, 4 to 5 months, not on average, but that's a good kind of minimum amount of time for localization to take. And Atlas has a lot of games, with, again, a lot of RPGs, a lot of dialogue, a lot of writing that needs to be translated, and voice work needs to be done. So the question is, why did it take 22 months to bring Xenoblade Chronicles to North America when it was only taking 5 months, 9 months for other RPGs, other games like that to come to North America? Did Nintendo not plan to bring the game over at all? This is where I'm trying to shine a light on the situation. What actually happened here? Why did the localization get delayed? Why did it start? Why did they choose not to bring this game over?
So let's talk about bringing Xenoblade Chronicles to America.
So I was very happy when I started doing this research to find, and I wasn't even looking for it, but I found a news feature by our very own Neil Ronahan on Nintendo World Report, dated June 23rd, 2011, where, according to this news feature, Nintendo of Europe wanted to show Xenoblade Chronicles at E3 2011. So this was, I think it was around the 7th to the 9th of June, somewhere in there. Kind of similar time frame as E3 usually is in June. Nintendo of America would not allow NOE to show Xenoblade Chronicles at the E3 because it was a game that NOA was not planning to sell. So this means that 12 months after the Japanese release, right? Japanese release was June 2010. 12 months later at E3 2011, NOA is still saying we're not planning to sell this game. It's not happening. NOA still hasn't given the green light to the North American release of the game. Europe already had, right? NOA was they wanted to show it off at E3 because it's a big stage. They know people even in the UK and EU are going to be tuning into E3 to see games like Xenoblade. They do buy games. They bought a lot of copies of Xenoblade Chronicles. Maybe not just them. Maybe it got imported, but we'll get there. So NOA still hasn't given the green light to Xenoblade Chronicles. Everyone is maybe expecting that at E3 we're going to see these games, right? They already know about them. There's a lot of awareness of these big role-playing games coming to Wii that have already come to the Wii in Japan. So everyone's kind of salivating for news on them. And this is where we get a campaign, kind of a fan-driven campaign that a number of us will be familiar with, and that's Operation Rainfall. Was that something you guys were familiar with? Do you remember anything about Operation Rainfall?
Yeah, again, for me, like I said, this was something I learned about afterwards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Oh, wow.
or I mean, I guess because I'm looking, I'm Googling it here, right? So it started in 2011. So pretty much, like I said, I went to college, started in 07. I graduated in 2011. So I get it. It formed up right as I was graduating, but I was still sort of in the, like, I'm playing World of Warcraft realm up until 2013 is back. Yeah, when I really sort of got back into Nintendo. So, and that was, again, like, at that point, Xenoblade was already out in America. And it was a game that I quickly learned about and I quickly purchased to play. And, among that situation, that's when I was sort of like, oh, well, there's actually, an interesting history here. And then that's sort of when I learned about Operation Rainfall.
Yeah, I definitely participated in it a little bit. I don't know if I probably didn't send letters, but I might have sent an email and participated in the social media aspects of it. But we'll get to it a little bit more in a sec. So what happens is after that E3, E3 2011 comes and goes. There's no announcement of these 3 games coming to North America, and this is kind of that's the basis, or that's where Operation Rainfall or OP Rainfall comes from. It's formed by fans as a campaign to let Nintendo know, let NOA know there is an interest. We want to see these games brought to North America. So they kind of came up with this coordinated, not aggressive, but very polite, respectful campaign for contacting NOA, giving them messages, and just letting them know that there is this demand for these games that they have chosen not to bring over yet. OP Rainfall took place during a time when the Wii was primarily releasing titles aimed at a more casual audience. So I'm looking at 2011, and there aren't a lot of big titles, first-party titles coming out anymore, right? I think Kirby's Return to Dreamland came out that year, I believe. There was another Mario. I think a Mario Party might have come out that year as well. But
Mario Sports Mix.
Yeah, Mario Sports Mix. That's the one I was thinking of. But there's no. Of course there is Super. I wrote Super Mario Odyssey. Of course I meant Super Mario Galaxy in the notes. Super Mario Galaxy and Skyward Sword.
2, right?
These are. Yeah. Was it 2?
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
So we've got these classic titles, but again, around 2011, we're not seeing anything like that. Shortly after the campaign began, the OP Rainfall campaign, we've driven. One of the funny things kind of happened on Amazon.com. There was a placeholder for Xenoblade Chronicles. I think it had something to do with Monado in the title. But they weren't even using the name yet. But part of the OP Rainfall campaign was pre-ordering this placeholder game so that it could rise to number 1 on the sales charts, and they made that happen. So it was another thing that was kind of drew NOA's attention, right? Yeah. We don't even know what the game is going to be called in North America because it hasn't been announced, but there's some placeholder there, and we're just going to keep pre-ordering that. And hey, look at this game is at number 1. We clearly want it. There's people who want to give
Nintendo, we're ready to give you the money.
It's kind of like that meme of Fry from Futurama, right? Shut up and take my money. Like this is basically what people were doing as part of that campaign. And so NOA sees the Amazon sales charts, and they issue a statement on Twitter. They say, and I quote, "Thanks for being such incredible fans. Unfortunately, there continues to be no plans for NOA to release these 3 games right now." So they're so aware of what's going on, and that people want to play these games and give them money, but they still haven't made a decision, it looks like at this point, to bring the games over. Now, kind of going back to the numbers a little bit, and these numbers come from VGCharts with a Z.com. Lifetime, and again, I don't know if these are 100% accurate, but the point will remain afterwards.
Ballpark, yeah.
Yeah, so Xenoblade Chronicles Wii has sold 250,000 units in Europe compared to 160,000 in Japan. That already is staggering, that in Europe, or the EU, there would be more units sold of a game than in Japan, especially a Japanese role-playing game, no less. So maybe we can think of that number as being partially attributed to people in North America importing the game, and I've got more on that in a sec. You compare the game ended up selling 430,000 units in North America again, so that one's going to be a little bit higher than both of those. But if you compare those figures to those for Tales of Symphonia, which I talked about earlier, Japan 240K, America less than that 210, and Europe 50K. So
yeah,
that's a lot more maybe recognizable, or that makes a lot more sense, right? Where a Japanese role-playing game sells more in Japan, the numbers are close in America, and they're significantly lower in Europe. But this did not happen for Xenoblade Chronicles, so it's clearly a game that had overseas interest, but not the quick reactions of North America to bring it over, which is just kind of funny.
Right.
Because you also got to think, too, we in 2012 was... it was barren, so obviously the hardcore players are going to eat up a game like this, but
yes,
that's,
and they did, right? They
half
did.
a million, though, like, that's still, for, when Xenoblade 2 hit 1 million on the Switch, it was like, heck yeah, that's great for JRPGs, we want to see those big numbers, like, so 430 on a 2-year-old game, from its original release, in the year 2012 on the Wii, I think that only speaks even more volumes. Like,
the big
hunger
part of
was
that,
real.
The big part of that number that's really interesting is the way that Xenoblade Chronicles Wii was eventually distributed in North America. There was only one retailer, physical retailer, and that was GameStop. The only other way you could get the game was buying it directly from Nintendo. I guess you go to the Nintendo website, you could order it there. You weren't able to buy games digitally yet. I don't think you.
Oh no.
The Wii had a virtual console.
You never could do that.
But you couldn't buy full retail games on the Wii, right? So the only way to get it was GameStop. And not even Amazon, which is really ironic, I think, considering the campaign, how they got it to number 1 on the sales charts. You still couldn't buy it there.
Amazon.
So only two places you could buy this game physically, and it still sells almost 3 times as many copies as it did in Japan. I think it's just such a really interesting comparison there. Right. So what happens is eventually, via Facebook, of course, the campaign started on social media, so Nintendo responds on social media here as well. In December 2nd, 2011, they announced that Xenoblade Chronicles is coming to North America the following April. So we finally get that news. It's coming. The campaign was successful. Maybe, we don't know. But I wanted to look at now some of the factors that might have contributed to that eventual release announcement.
Right.
So the first thing, of course, the OP Rainfell campaign. There were letters, emails, phone calls to NOA headquarters, posts on Facebook and Twitter. Again, it was really kind of a polite, non-aggressive, non-threatening way of just getting out that message that we want that game. The second thing, there's a Metacritic score for Xenoblade Chronicles. It was seen very well critically. Metacritic score in the 90s based on European reviews around the game when it launched in 2011 in Europe, right middle of the year in Europe. Articles like the one, I've linked to one here on Engadget, where funny enough, this was written by Jason Schreier as well. It's an article that Jason wrote on Engadget that provides websites for British retailers that will ship the game to North America, and because it was region locked, don't bring back region locking though.
Bring back region locking.
British retailers that would ship the game to North America, and step-by-step instructions for how to hack your region-locked North American Wii to play European games. So there was also media that was writing about ways to get this game into the hands of people who wanted it, right? So I think that was another probably a contributing factor. Nintendo's not blind to articles written like like this that are telling people to buy the game somewhere else and kind of
then hack your system,
and then hack your system to play it, right? Like, it's just kind of funny. The fourth thing, the English localization again had already been done, and they ended up using that. So why would you not bring it over if you already have the localization done for the European release of the game? That seems to be
and the demand. It wasn't even like it would be like, well, we're gonna risk our neck by putting out X amount of copies. Well, it's like, people want it. You already know people want it. You already have like the majority of the cost already, taken care of. The localization would be the most expensive. Obviously, like I said, you have to pay for the actual copies. But if you already know they're going to be selling, it just doesn't make sense, really.
The development and the localization are already done. Like, you're 90% of the way there. You might as well just print some copies for North America and sell them. And again, that's the fifth thing. Eventually they did. They sold the game exclusively through GameStop as the sole in-person retailer, and I guess on their website as well. You could buy it directly online from Nintendo, but I wonder if there's something about GameStop kind of stepping up, saying, "Hey, we see that there's people who want to buy this game. We're not immune to the OP Rainfall campaign. They're paying attention to that. Nintendo, we're gonna buy X number of copies from you to sell, but you have to sell only at GameStop with us, or from the Nintendo website, fine. But we want to be the only brick and mortar retailer where Xenoblade Chronicles is sold. So GameStop maybe makes a play to Nintendo and says, we'll take on a little bit of that burden. We'll buy 100,000, 200,000 units from you. But let us be the only one selling them.
Probably a good move by GameStop.
Yeah,
like I said,
for
and
sure.
it's sort of Curry's favor because, like, think of all the people that were involved. Like, all right, now we're going to GameStop. Like, I mean, I guess maybe they could have been like, GameStop's dirty, like exclusivity.
Boo, ban GameStop.
But if they were
the person
actually
the people who brought it,
but if they were instrumental to actually making it, or partially responsible for making it happen,
Yeah, I mean that's my whole
maybe.
thinking is that it's not one thing, right?
Yeah, it's sort of a collection of factors.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I found by just digging around here is that Nintendo never really admits to, of course it was the OP Rainfall campaign, and I've got a quote here from an Ars Technica article in February 2012. Kyle Orland, he says, Nintendo, for its part, says that OP Rainfall wasn't actually the sole reason behind the eventual decisions to bring Xenoblade Chronicles and the last story to North America. So they did say something. And then another quotation here, I think this is from a Nintendo representative. Our fans are very passionate. They have demonstrated an interest in the game. We certainly appreciate this passion, but it alone did not impact our decision to launch the game or the time frame in which it would launch. So that sounds like a really kind of company line. Nintendo's not going to say, yes, of
our
course.
Our fans are very passionate.
Of course.
Have demonstrated an
of course,
interest
it was 100% the OP Rainfall campaign that made us change our minds, right? Like they're not going to say that.
Yeah, they're not going to say that.
But
Imagine they had the cojones though.
Oh, honestly, that honesty would be really refreshing because we don't really get that. One thing I was thinking about.
I don't know. I think we get it sometimes.
Well, I
mean, like with Metroid, right?
You get
with Prime 4, I'm saying.
Sure, that's true.
Anyway,
I was thinking you do get companies asking, like, hey, tell us you want this game, show us you want this game, and we will bring it to Switch, for example, right? So you are getting companies kind of reaching out a little bit more. Maybe Bandai Namco's like,
this is never going to happen ever again. Yeah. I mean, this stuff is just because of region locking, because it's not there anymore.
Exactly.
Stuff like this just won't ever happen ever again.
No, and I think that's great. that we won't have to wait so long for great games like this, right?
Exactly. Although it does leave us an absence of what to complain about online.
That's just true. Oh, I'm sure we'll find something, Perry.
There's too many dang games.
No, Jordan. There's no complaining online.
Oh, I must be checking a different internet than you are. So just to kind of conclude here, I find it really interesting. So we've got 9 years since Xenoblade Chronicles release in Japan, right? Release in 2010. In those 9 years, we've seen the Xenoblade Chronicles Wii release. We've seen a port to 3DS, and funny enough, one of the few games that you needed to have the new 3DS to play as well. So almost a selling point
title,
right? I mean, that's where I played the game. I bought a new 3DS and I bought Xenoblade Chronicles 3D the first day it came out. We got a spin-off on Wii U, right? Xenoblade Chronicles X that had DLC attached to it. We get a sequel.
I do want to add, that also they made it one of the few Wii downloadable games on the Wii U.
Good point. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. That's right. Yeah.
And that was kind of a big deal. And I believe they put they even made it so that you could play with the gamepad or something like that. Remember?
Yeah, you can play the game just on the. You can't play using the gamepad. I think you can play with the gamepad as a screen.
No. I think you can. No, I really think you can.
Okay. Oh man.
Yeah, I think they put that support in or something like that.
You might be right. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I think that I remember that in a Nintendo Direct being like, and you can use this, and like I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
But they obviously went to great lengths to make that happen because that didn't happen for a lot of the games that were released on the Wii U, right?
Well, and it was huge, right? Because also at that time, Xenoblade.
Expensive.
You either bought the 3DS one, which I played it, I loved it. There are some problems with it, like literally are some game-breaking problems with
there
it
are.
that make things like ridiculously hard because for timing. So if you want to play, I mean, it was so funny. I remember looking at like, how do I freaking beat this, and looking it up on YouTube and be like, well, that's not how mine looks. like because I was watching Wii gameplay. And it's that's like 60 frames a second.
So
it looks amazing. It looks so much better.
Yeah, no, it is definitely better
in a lot of ways.
The Wii version,
but
for sure.
still, but obviously, I would have never been able to play it on the Wii. Because I played majority of my 90 hours of that game at work,
Yeah.
So,
but it was also very expensive to pick up.
That's what I was gonna say.
Copy.
I mean, that's what I mean. That you either bought the new 3DS version, or you bought the Wii copy that was like $60 to $70, and now this was $20 on the Wii U. So it's.
I remember even a year or two after this, like maybe 2013, 2014, GameStop had kind of a republishing of the game where they printed more copies and they sold them for like $100 or something, right? They were really expensive. And
wasn't that the shifty stuff that was going on, that they were opening them?
Yes,
and selling them used to get around that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's what I heard, right? That was the that could be not true.
Yeah, I think those kind of rumors or things have been said a lot, and I think that where there's smoke, there might be some fire too. So at any rate, so we got the port to 3DS. You're right. We got the downloadable version on Wii U, Xenoblade Chronicles X on Wii U. We would eventually get a sequel on Switch, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and then Torna, a standalone DLC on Switch. So we've already got basically 5 other releases in the Xenoblade series since the original release in Japan,
and inclusion in Smash.
That's right. Yeah, I mean we're seeing representation of that game elsewhere.
Zelda.
And in Zelda, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah,
it
their
is
biggest series.
It is absolutely a tentpole title. I think, like you said, it's the only, not the only, but it is the JRPG. It is always a big JRPG game, because they have other ones, obviously, like Mario and Luigi games, I guess at this point have been a lot of re-releases, but this is you're gonna play this game for 60 to 100 plus hours. It's going to be a huge world. It's going to be, you know what I mean? Like, it is a big budget game. And yeah, I mean, it, like you said, it's a tentpole, and it's funny that it, like you said, it took so long to get, to release, and it wasn't even just like this, like you said, the circumstances around the whole thing are just so interesting with it being done, a copy that you could have literally flipped on to burned onto a North American disc that would play in a North American Wii, and you'd be good to go,
That's
and
right.
like the fact that they were still busting chops over it for whatever reason is just crazy. And it's just weird to think, like, in a world that they didn't do this, like, what is Monolith Soft? Like, what are they if they never released it outside of
maybe
America,
maybe they go back to Xenogears or the Xenosaga series. I have no idea.
Neil would be a happy man.
Now, real quick,
yeah.
Is that actually related to Xenoblade?
Not. I mean, spiritually, like not. I wouldn't say directly related. No. There are elements of them, but
it's vague. It's vague answers like that still confuse me.
Yeah. I mean, the best answer is probably no, and just know that there is some thought put into a relationship between the games, but it's not direct. You don't see it in them.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I think the best thing to end with is just the irony that these Xenoblade games, I'm not 100% sure about all of them as it relates to Europe, but in North America, these games sell more copies than they do in Japan, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is kind of the biggest example of that, right? It's over 1.5 million units, and it's about, I was doing the math, I think it's about 5 times the number of units sold in Japan for Europe and North America for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So you're seeing this crazy swing of popularity for this series, especially in, I know JRPGs have become popular in the West, I get that, but I think with this series in particular, you see the numbers swing dramatically over to Europe and North America compared to Japan. It doesn't do poorly in Japan. These games just do so well in the West. And it's just funny that we almost never got it in North America. Right? That's the funniest thing to me.
I mean, so now we got to ask the question. Now you got to ask us the question.
Yeah. So did Nintendo of America make the right move by not announcing or actually releasing the game earlier? Like, did waiting till April, waiting to drum up all of this buzz and demand and kind of building up the flood behind the dam and then letting the dam just burst, was that a good thing? Do you think that benefited the series?
I mean, this totally brings us to the history's mysteries part.
Right, yeah,
which is like,
exactly.
We can't really say because, like, does it make sense that, okay, now that you can't have it, so now our heart grows fonder and we must have it. And now it's this huge thing where, now, if it was me, and they released it, I probably would have heard of Xenoblade. A lot of people, and it just, it's a JRPG. But no, this was the one we couldn't have from Nintendo. Huge difference. And, did that make it more impactful for my life, literally? Like, for me? Absolutely. Like, I mean, for who I am as a Nintendo guy, like, that in that scene of knowing what's going on, I think it absolutely changed my point of view and got it on... like, out in the in the community, just that it got out there, and like that
the word of mouth.
I knew way more about it. Yeah, word of mouth. So, but it's like I can't like they never said. I can't tell. It's something you can kind of look at the numbers and be like, well, that kind of makes sense, right? Makes sense that that the hardcore RPG community is a pretty big one in the West. I mean, like Octopath Traveler sold a good amount in the... I mean, all these RPGs, they usually have a good fan base of a lot of people that, you don't really realize. That's kind of the solid crew there. So it does make sense that they would be, maybe because of... definitely a factor, for sure.
Yeah, I think, you try and think about, how directly, how much of a direct effect did it have, right? Because I think even if it, let's say it had a normal lag from, Western Japanese RPG release or from Japan to the Western market, that 4 or 5 months, I think the demand was so high because it was such a great game. It was, you know what I mean? The reviews were really great. Having played it, it's again, one of my favorite RPGs. I love the series, and I think the hype would have still been around it. I think maybe not as many people, like, I could almost see like it still being a very popular franchise, but maybe not to the tune that it is now, or like maybe it would still build up to where it is now, but maybe it would have taken, a little bit longer, in the sense of like maybe Xenoblade 3 would have been the one that was like the, oh my goodness, because like Perry was saying, there is such a ravenous fan base for Japanese RPGs, and like I know it's a smaller, it's not like your Call of Duties, fans, it's not that size, but there's still a large group of people who love these games, and if they heard how great it was, this game's amazing and it's coming out, people would have bought it, and the word of mouth would have came out like, this game is amazing, and then the sequel, so I think it could have still trended in that direction. But I mean, I guess it's sort of hard to argue it didn't get some sort of a boost, because
absolutely,
you know what I mean? It was in the news where for months and months and months and months, where maybe it would have come out, done really well on the review cycle, sort of had some long legs, but not nearly as long as the months it took for it to actually get here. So, I think it definitely... and it almost even just goes back to like the whole Wii in general, with like the shortages. Like, did that help things along? Having the you can't get it. So.
Well, here's the thing. There's kind of two questions here. One is, did the success of Xenoblade did Operation Rainfall have anything to do with the success? Which I could say, I think so. I think it had something to do with it.
I think so too.
Now the other question being, did Nintendo plan this all along?
No,
I'd say no.
I don't think so.
Like everything shows that they just were scared of putting it out.
They were just being Jimmies.
But I think in hindsight it does. In hindsight, it did. I think it did benefit them in some way, right? Like people don't like being told they can't have something when other people have it, right? Like, you don't give one kid a popsicle and the other kid like a carrot. Like, no one wants that carrot. You always want the popsicle, or you want the good thing that other people have. So maybe they didn't do it intentionally, but I think they can't. We can't. I think we can say there are definitely benefits by holding it back and creating this pent up demand for something. And I think companies still do that today, right? You still find ways to show things before they're ready, or tease people, or get people all hyped about something for months and months and months. And then when you finally release it, there's all these people they've been talking about it forever. All this word of mouth is spread, and the game ends up doing pretty well,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
crazy. Real quick before we wrap up here, did you play Pandora's Tower or The Last Story?
I did not, and I would love to play The Last Story, but by the time I kind of got close to it, it was already sold out of stores. Like people weren't carrying it anymore. So, I mean, these games were never at any point stocked very well or ubiquitous or easy to find, and I think that's kind of unfortunate still to this day.
Well, I'm pretty sure you can. Let me see. I'm pretty sure you can get a cheap copy on eBay. Because I did that. Because I bought it. And it was one of those, like, I haven't gotten around to playing it yet.
Yeah,
and then next thing you know, like, here, you could buy it now used for $15.
Well, I've got a great idea, Casey, and I think I know someone who will be on board with it.
Mage?
Maybe that's got to be a Mage episode. We'll play The Last Story. Hironobu Sakaguchi is one of his last console RPGs. I imagine we could sway David pretty easily there. So
yeah,
maybe that's something for the future. Yeah.
It's weird. There's some that are like $40. It looks like there might have been one limited edition or something.
Okay.
But I'm looking
that's
at
very reasonable.
The one that $15.30 free shipping.
Yeah, that's nothing. Okay. Yeah, let's do it. That sounds really good to me.
Yeah, that would be a great excuse because I heard that's a really fun game as well.
Yeah,
and,
me too. I heard a lot of good things about that.
Boom. There we go.
Sweet. So I want to thank Jordan for putting this together. I think this was awesome and a lot of fun, and it's just really fun to look like. It's amazing to look through what happened.
Yeah, my plan is always to kind of end with some kind of question or some kind of lingering mystery, something that maybe we try to throw some ideas out or try to solve or something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, this was a ton of fun to research. So
totally, man. Yeah, thank you so much. I also want to say, for anyone who's more interested, the beauty of NWR is that we have this amazing chronicle of this happening on RFN. And you can go back and listen to the whole thing as it went. I mean, with James and with Johnny, and I think all four of them. I think they were all totally into this game, hacked Wii's, all that stuff.
Yeah,
what was going on? So I know that Casey and I have listened to all the RFN episodes like from the beginning. And so I don't know if Jordan, have you?
Not since the beginning. I think I jumped in around the time when Johnny was still the host, but James would take over quickly after that, or not too long after that. Maybe a few months after that he would take over, and that's when that's kind of when I started listening. Yeah.
Yeah, going into the backlog's always great. And also, real quick, just before anyone jumps on it, that was a Japanese version, so it looks like the American copy might be a little bit more money. Buy it now is for like $40, but there are ones that are like bids for like $20ish. So
still very reasonable. It's not like it's $200 or something.
Yeah,
right? So.
if it potentially is a great
game,
it's
still less for when it cost when it came out.
It's still and it's less than what a new RPG would cost you. So
yeah, true.
Cool. Well, I made the vital mistake of telling my wife before we recorded that this would probably be a shorter episode.
I'm going to take the blame. I'm taking some of the blame there.
Sorry, gentlemen.
Oh, no. I'm telling you that was, so the blame is all mine for saying that. But I really enjoyed having you on, Jordan. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, we're definitely not going to wait so long for this to happen again, because I had just a ball with you guys, and I love talking with you guys about video games, and we'll absolutely do it again really soon.
Heck yeah,
and it's nice having a Canadian on here that doesn't argue about how Celsius is better than Fahrenheit. David.
Yeah, I had to. I sent him a picture of the weather today, and I had to explain what it was in Celsius.
And now, and we're not going to have this conversation, but I'm just trying to say, Jordan, it's nice that you don't have to rub that in our faces all the time.
I don't want to end on a sour note. They say you're always supposed to, you're never supposed to go to bed angry.
He's
so
a Celsius man.
We're gonna put the podcast to bed on a happy note. No,
That's right.
No more mentions of David Lloyd.
And on that note, actually, real quick, tell the fine folks where they can find you and everything you're doing.
Sure, yeah. So I've got a couple of podcasts that I'm on regularly with Don Koopman. We do the eShop Action Committee once a month, where we kind of look through some of the interesting games that came to the eShop. So that's the eShop Action Committee. You can find that on your podcast services. And then Thirsty Mage is an RPG podcast I do with David Lloyd. Casey's on pretty often, and Neil Ronahan as well. And we talk about RPGs. We've got upcoming episodes on Final Fantasy VII. That'll be a good one, so you can look forward to that. On Twitter, I post my game reviews that I do for NWR, and usually just talk about games and other stuff that I'm into. Game of Thrones, here we go. So my Twitter handle is @riskman64, just like it sounds. Hit me up there. I'd love to chat about games or anything else that people are interested in. So you can find me there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Beautiful. You can find Talk Nintendo Podcast, which is what you're listening to right now. You can find that at Twitter at Talk Nintendo Pod. That is Talk Nintendo
POD.
That's right. And thanks again, Jordan. Thank you, Casey, for joining me this night on this beautiful spring night.
Thanks, Pert.
And you're welcome. And we will see you next week on Talk Nintendo Podcast, episode 136.
Perry, would you say they're super rare?
Yes, I would. No, I like the 3DS version of Smash better than the
Well,
Switch
that's
one.
because you're a big dumb idiot.